And everyone is in now.
Great, thank you. Okay, good evening. Apologize for the wait. We had a Zoom connection issue that's been cleared up. So thank you for your patience. Calling this public meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGLC 131, Section 40 in the Boston Wetlands Ordinance. Boston City Code Ordinances, Chapter 7-1.4 of the Boston Conservation Commission will hold a series of virtual public hearings this evening on April 8th, 2026, to review the following projects to determine what conditions, if any, the Commission will impose in order to protect the interests of the public and private water supply, groundwater, prevention of pollution, flood control, prevention of storm damage, protection of fisheries and land containing shellfish, and protection of wildlife habitat. Our hearings, our public hearings will be followed by our regular meeting this evening. And in accordance with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, we're conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Conservation Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Additionally, the meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video. Members of the public may have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. For the record, I am Michael Parker, Chair of the Commission. Could staff please identify themselves?
Elena Itamari with the Environment Department.
Dee Dee Hernandez with the Environment Department.
Mason Hagan with the Environment Department.
Great, thank you. I'll call the roll of commissioners. Commissioner Sullivan,
John Sullivan.
Commissioner Linay,
Amy Linay.
Commissioner Wilson,
Mike Wilson.
Commissioner Conan,
Anand Thiruvengadam.
Commissioner Issa Smargiassi.
Steve Estes Smargiassi.
Great, thank you. Okay. First item on the agenda this evening is notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2103 and Boston file number 2026-006 from Epsilon Associates Inc. on behalf of the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the proposed site enabling work at the North End Community Center, including cutting and capping utilities, demolition of the Valerisi bathhouse, and improvements to, and I think this is dated. I think we're stopping here based on the revised NOI. But what was contemplated before were improvements to the existing seawall at 471 Commercial Street, North End neighborhood resource areas, 25-foot waterfront, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, 100-foot buffer to coastal bank, 100-foot buffer to coastal beach. So I guess, Elena, the question is and maybe this is just a minor point, but if some of the work is not being done pursuant to this NOI, are those still the same resource areas?
The resource areas, I think to be conservative would be good to keep the same. But what we can do is we had already published the public notice a week in advance of the hearing and weren't able to make these edits to the hearing after, or excuse me, to the agenda afterward.
Yep.
But when we issue the permit, we can clarify in the description that we are taking out the components that are no longer proposed under this phase of work.
Yeah, understood. It'll be in the public testimony and in the record here, but I'm just clarifying the resource areas. Okay, good.
Excuse me, Chair Parker, I'm going to recuse myself in this one.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Linay. Okay, who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Chair Parker. Eric Rexford from Epsilon Associates here on behalf of the proponent, the City of Boston's Public Facilities Department. I'm also joined by a few of my colleagues on the project team from Weston and Sampson, Sasaki, PMA Consultants, the owner's project manager, and I believe Tom Kazmowski, the project manager from PFD, is with us this evening.
Great. Okay. Floor is all yours. As I mentioned in the intro here, there's been some changes to this NOI. You're going to be scaling back the work. So if you could run through what the plan is now, I'd appreciate it.
That would be my pleasure. If you could jump to the next slide. Thanks. First of all, thank you for having us back on your agenda. Good to see you guys again. We're talking about 471 Commercial Street. That's the project site bounded in red on your screen. It's part of the larger Langone Park and Pupilo Playground Field Complex in the north end, fronting Boston Harbor, of course, and next to the Coast Guard facility. Last time we saw you at the end of February, that hearing was obviously continued. At that time, Commissioner Herbst had requested a copy of a comment letter that was to be submitted by the Office of Coastal Zone Management on the project's draft environmental impact report that had been submitted to the MEPA office earlier this year. Specifically, that comment letter was expected to address the flood performance analysis that was included in the draft EIR, contemplating the improvements with respect to sea level rise and coastal storm flowage. That comment letter was received a few days after the hearing, and it was forwarded along to Commission staff at the time. Also note that it was included in the supplemental information that was submitted to the Commission earlier this week. That comment letter, based on my reading, it doesn't seem to me that CZM raised any substantive concerns about the flood performance analysis or, in fact, the proposed conditions at the site. They did request some additional information about site elevations with respect to the base flood elevation in the 2070 condition. We'll, of course, respond to CZM's comment letter and provide the information that they want in due course as part of the MEPA review process. But tonight, I want to go on with the work that was the limited scope of enabling work that was described in the notice of intent and has been modified by the supplemental information. Dee Dee, if you can jump to the next slide, that'd be helpful. So we are now, as was described in the notice of intent, we're proposing a limited scope of work that includes demolition of the existing surface and subsurface structures, so the pool, bathhouse, splash pad, and deck, cutting and capping of utilities, and geostructural improvements. The initial notice of intent contemplated, as you mentioned, Chair Parker, elevating the seawall. We are no longer proposing to do that as part of this enabling work. That will be the subject of a separate notice of intent that will include the full redevelopment project, including the North End Community Center, Harbor Walk, the new pools, so on and so forth. But for now, we're just seeking an order of conditions authorizing the demolition activities, cutting, capping utilities, and the geostructural improvements that I'll talk about in a couple of slides. You can jump to the next slide, please. You mentioned resource areas at the top of it. All the resource areas and impacts are the same as described in the notice of intent, with one exception, and that is land subject to tidal action. I have a couple slides on this later, but we're proposing to install some H piles in land subject to tidal action. Those were not described initially in the notice of intent. They are described in the supplemental information submitted earlier this week. But again, coastal bank buffer zone, waterfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and land subject to tidal action. Next slide, please. In addition to the demolition work and the utilities, there's a couple of buckets of geostructural work that will be conducted within the green shaded area. We did describe this all at the last hearing, by the way. Within the green shaded area, we're proposing to advance displacement columns. Those will support the vertical development under that additional notice of intent later this spring. And then the installation of a network of H piles that will support the pools, the future pools, pool deck, splash pad, and other structures within the yellow shaded area. Next slide, please. Representative cut from the sheets that was included in the supplemental information showing the location of H piles at the northeast corner of the site. I selected this area because I want to call out the 16 piles at the bottom right of the site. This location at the site is currently a wooden pile supported deck. As part of the demolition activities, that deck will be removed. Under the separate notice of intent, it will be replaced in the exact same location with a concrete deck. To support that concrete deck, of course, we need these H piles. We're proposing 16 H piles outboard of the top of Coastal Bank. This area underneath the deck is a granite block revetment. And we're proposing to install 12 H piles in land subject to tidal action. 4 of those H piles will be installed above mean high water through the revetment and into Coastal Bank. Next slide, please. I think it's just a section of that same area. Yep. The 3 piles, vertical piles on the right are representative of those 12 piles that will be installed in land subject to tidal action. The middle pile through the revetment, of course, is above mean high water, will be into coastal bank. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, Eric, just to
Yeah.
clarify,
Yeah.
you're proposing that work as part of the what part of
Enabling.
this? The geostructural work?
Correct. Yeah, so
Okay.
there's a whole network of H piles that will be installed. Most of them are upland of the coastal bank. In this one location where there's currently a wooden pile supported deck, we're proposing to install these 16 piles through the revetment. Not yet install the concrete decking. That'll be when the site is redeveloped, but we'd like to install these H piles now.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide is just through where the pool decks will be and are. Again, the coastal bank, the seawall, I should say, will not be touched. We're not proposing to elevate or alter that at this time. The pool forms, of course, will be demolished from the site, and that grid of H piles will be installed. All of them in this location will be upland inboard of the coastal bank. Otherwise, all the work, resource area impacts, mitigation, means and methodology as described in the notice of intent remain the same. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the commission. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. So I just have two questions here. One, regarding the H piles in the slide a couple slides ago. Now, what will they be supporting? You said concrete deck. Are they supporting the proposed harbor walk there? Or what's their function going to be?
Yeah, so that concrete deck, maybe Steve Angler can help me, but it'll be publicly accessible open space. But there's also a splash pad that's going to be constructed back there, and I believe some of that splash pad creeps over that deck, very little area, but it's mostly just open space, publicly accessible open space.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that this isn't work that is subject to the MIPA review that could change in the future, and we're jumping the gun here, but it sounds like it's not.
Well, it's certainly included in the project that's being reviewed by MIPA, but
Right.
I have no expectation that there'd be any alteration to that component of the project.
Right, similar to the demolition of the bathhouse and the cutting and capping. Okay. As far as the displacement columns, and I might have forgot this from last time. So what's the process there? It can be like compressing soil and then putting in some sort of mixture to strengthen or solidify the ground. Is that how this is working?
I'm going to defer to the much smarter people on the team to answer that question. That's exactly my understanding, but Steve, I don't know if
Yeah,
Steve from
I think Brett is on, and he's probably the best person to answer that question if you're available, Brett.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there's different ways to install these columns. We anticipate that there will be a small amount of pre-augering at the top, but then most of that will be just a displacement. So they'll basically push a probe down into the ground. It displaces the soil and kind of densifies it around that column, and then it will be replaced with either a stone or a stone and grout mixture.
Okay. So we have, or I shouldn't say we, I'm not doing the work. So there is erosion controls around this portion of the work.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a sediment and erosion control plan that was included in the NOI and in the supplemental information. And that lays out all the BMPs that will be in place for that work.
Okay. So it includes that. Okay. Good. Thank you. That's it for me. Eleanor, what do you have?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think that we have anything to add on this. Again, we had conducted our site visit earlier this year when the project had initially filed, and yeah, based on everything that I've heard from DEP on this project, they seem to be clear on the scope, and I think that the way that the project scope has been pulled back seems to address all of the comments that they had initially.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, so you're doing the work with the piles and all that. When will the concrete deck ever be built? Do we have a time frame? Is this like a year? Is this 5 years? Or do we have an idea?
Hopefully weeks. We anticipate filing the final EIR in the coming weeks. We expect that we'll submit a notice of intent for the remainder of the project at the time that we have the final secretary's certificate in hand. So
And
this spring is the answer.
yeah, and so that will include the new seawall and all the hopper work you wanted to do. So as you're just delaying it, so it's in two phases. This is phase one to be followed very shortly by phase two, where you complete the work.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. No, that's the only question I had.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, no further questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Conan.
Thank you, Chair Parker. So is it two-phase or three-phase? And I was also curious about if there is another NOA coming and how soon.
Yeah, there will be another notice of intent for the remainder of the project. I expect later this spring, we'll be submitting that notice of intent. I think, calling it phases is a bit granular. We're doing the enabling work as a phase and the redevelopment as a second phase. It'll all be continuous. The enabling work will bleed right into the redevelopment. That's part of the goal of the enabling work here, is just to get some of the early site work and materials in the ground to enable, a timely delivery of the project for pool season, ideally. But yes, for all intents and purposes for this discussion this evening, it's two phases, a single continuous effort, however.
Right, I understand. And the concrete deck is going to be much heavier, right? So I assume the H piles you're planning are meant to support that weight.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all, Chair Parker.
Thank you. Commissioner Smargiassi.
No further questions. Glad to hear that it's back to back and that the EIR process isn't really delaying it very much.
Good, thank you. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Elena, we had the CZM letter in the file.
We did.
Was there anything else we got as far as public comment, agency comment? And I know you
Nothing other
mentioned
than that.
DEP.
No, so I actually I didn't include the email that we received from DEP because it didn't have anything substantive. It was just confirmation that
Okay.
what they were looking for was clarity on the scope of the project. And now that they had that, they just confirmed that that was the information that they needed, but nothing beyond that.
Okay, great. I don't see any raised hands. Did you get any emails?
No emails, no raised hands.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Sorry, I lost my notice. Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that carries, let me count up, big math, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate the help.
Sure. Next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 0062114 in Boston, file number 2026-016 from Niche Engineering on behalf of the Department of Conservation and Recreation for the proposed redevelopment of the Artisani parking lot in Herder Park, including the construction of a new sidewalk and shared use path at 1255 Soldiers Field Road in Alston. Resource areas are bordering land subject to flooding, 100-foot buffer to BVW, 100-foot buffer to inland bank, and 25-foot waterfront area. This has been continued from the March 11th, 2026 hearing. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, thank you. Jessica Walla with Niche Engineering. And we should have John Cavanaro from DCR available as well. Oh, yeah.
And I'm here as well, John Cavanaro from DCR. Thank you, Jess.
Great. Welcome. Okay. The floor is all yours, Jess.
Great, thank you. So yes, we're back after the March hearing. So I will give a overview of the project, but I won't go in as much detail as the previous as to the purpose and intent. So if we go next slide. So this parking lot project, the intent is really to create a resilient and more green parking lot that has safer bike routes and pedestrian routes and more efficient vehicle routing as well as wayfinding. And this is really the first implementable project coming out of the DCR Herder Park master plan project. Next slide, please. So the existing site, this is some context, but essentially we are within the resource areas related to the Charles River. To the left of us is the Artesani Playground and Splash Pad, and then to the right is the moat, which also has existing wetland systems and resource areas associated with it. And then if we move to the next slide, we are looking at just degraded pavement conditions and poor drainage due to an old drainage system, really. And there are accessibility issues. And as you can see with the aerial, no greenery within the bounds of the parking lot. So if we go to the next, we are proposing a new layout for the parking lot, new improved circulation that ties in and is coordinated with the Soldiers Field Road and Everett Street project. And you can see here with the parking lot, there's a lot more green space introduced, but also we are introducing bioretention basins and permeable pavement, or permeable pavers, I should say, with the intent of treating stormwater for TSS and phosphorus. And this project does result in an overall decrease in impervious area as well. Next slide. We are raising the site as much as we can, given constraints with existing grades and surrounding properties in the community garden. So our goal was to really set ourselves above the 20 around elevation 5-6 based off of the MCFRM flood data. So you can see here we're hitting that kind of 5 to 6 elevation and higher through majority of the parking lot. But as we move towards that community garden, we do become constrained just with existing conditions. So we are raising the parking lot where we can for resilience purposes and to reduce the flooding that the site sees. Next slide. This is just a summary of the work that we're doing in the resource areas. So looking at the 100-foot buffer to the bank, we are, in this case, slightly increasing impervious area, but all of that is proposed walkways, and the overall project has a reduction in impervious area and a reduction in peak runoff rates and volumes as a result. In the next slide, similarly, we have in the floodplain adjacent to that moat system, we are eliminating a paved walkway and replacing it with a permeable material. So here there's a reduction in the 100-foot buffer and the floodplain. Next slide, please. At the last hearing, we discussed phosphorus removal and TSS calculations. We've been working with John Sullivan since to just make sure that we're all on the same page with the credit that we're claiming for TSS and phosphorus reduction and essentially like the storage volumes provided by each BMP. And so this addresses all the Mass DEP stormwater standards, which we're all meeting as a redevelopment and exceeding. And then if we go to the next slide. This is backup that I've been providing to John Sullivan. I don't know if we want to get into the weeds on these, but essentially showing the storage depth provided by each BMP and the phosphorus removal as a result. Next slide, please. Same with sediment removal, we're exceeding the 80%. Next slide. I think a main discussion point from the last hearing is the maintenance of these systems. So we had discussed manufacturer recommendations for the concrete panels, that kind of vacuuming and sweeping that'll happen 2 times a year. And since the last hearing, we went in and updated the operation and maintenance plan to include project-specific order of conditions that relate to the maintenance of the site. So things that we're seeing here, just highlighting some of the important points with snow removal and any use of fertilizer, salt, sand. And then if we go to the next slide, we're also distinguishing the maintenance schedule. So talking about minimum 2 times a year, coming in to vacuum the permeable concrete and checking that the permeability of it is still effective at least once a year with infiltrative capacity testing. And these panels, I think, as we discussed last time, one of the benefits is if there is a failure, these panels are modular and single ones can be removed.
And just, I'm sorry to break in, just to clarify, both of those slides, all of the measures in both of those slides are included in the O&M?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And with the bioretention basin, we had some questions on this one last time as well. But really, a majority of the maintenance happens at grade, and as needed, you'll start to need to replace the subgrade. But really coming in, treating the vegetation, removing essentially dead plants, replacing the mulch, just keeping the plants in good order and removing trash as it accumulates. Next slide. This slide, we had discussed this last time, just focusing on how our project meets the City of Boston's performance standards in the 25-foot waterfront area, separate from how we're meeting the DEP standards. And I believe that is it on our end.
Okay.
I think I've touched on the major changes since our last hearing, so happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. I just have a couple quick ones here. Elena, this is actually for Elena. As far as the manufacturer's recommendations for maintenance of the panels, do we have that in the order of conditions?
No, we don't have that, so that would be a good thing to add.
Okay, so we'll need that submitted. Okay. And the revised O&M plan. Okay. Okay. As far as the one of your slides, Jess, talked about when debris accumulation affects infiltration values. How should I ask this question? I mean, when will you know that, or DCR know that a certain level of debris accumulation has occurred, or the debris accumulation won't occur because it's going to be maintained twice annually? I hope I asked that question in a way that made sense.
So essentially how they would know if it's failing, it would be visual inspection, but then also running a hose over the slabs. And here I'm going to defer to the manufacturer recommendation on that kind of testing. But essentially you're visually inspecting. I don't think you're like monitoring with a meter the flow going through it, but if you're running a hose over it and the water is sitting on top of the concrete, that means then you need to proceed with active maintenance, vacuuming and sweeping. And if the panels are failing to the point where vacuuming and sweeping is not removing the debris and creating infiltration within the panels, then you would have to replace a panel.
Okay, I appreciate that, because what I was getting at is, where is this codified? Where is this written down? It sounds like it's in the manufacturer's maintenance in your O&M plan.
Yes.
Okay, it's just not something someone eyeballs. Okay. And then I'll let Commissioner Sullivan get to this, but John, I say this every time we have a project over there, and everybody gets sick of me saying it, but please ask your contractors not to drive heavy machinery on those nice resource areas near the river, especially in the spring when it's muddy and tire ruts form, and it looks terrible and it's bad for the resource area. So Eleanor, what do you have on this?
Thank you. Yes, and Commissioner Sullivan, please let me know if I am mischaracterizing this condition, and just let me know as well. But I think that the additional special condition that we wanted to include was the requirement for video inspection of the existing storm drain pipes downstream of the proposed project at the tie-in locations. And then the piece that I did want to clarify was submitting the results of that to the owner and engineer. I just wanted to clarify whether those are just the property owner and the engineer on the project, or if there's anybody else that we want to submit that information to as well before any work begins.
Well, my only comment was to have it cleaned. I'm sorry, was to have it actually cleaned and videoed, inspected to make sure it was in good shape. They're going to leave an existing pipe. They're replacing most of the pipe, underground piping, which is a good idea, except for the stuff that goes right in the water. We want to make sure you can have all brand new pipes. If it goes to a pipe that doesn't work well, the system fails. So make sure they can reuse it. And if they can't reuse it, they'll have to come back for an amendment to say we got to now dig up the pipe that goes into the river.
Got it.
We're making an assumption it's in good shape. The way you find out is you clean it and you find a way to televise inspect it. That should be submitted to the Concom. You can ship it over to us, and we'll agree or disagree with what they find.
Perfect. So that information will be submitted to staff for review, and then we will send it to BWSC. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, the special condition is that the pipes be cleaned and then video inspected.
The pipes that are to remain, that aren't to be replaced, are to be cleaned and video inspected. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, before we get to you, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan, what else do you have?
I spent a lot of time, Jess and I became best friends on the phone and on email, going back and forth on what they came up with. We don't usually do this type of work as far as we're concerned, because it's heavy maintenance. But I think it's a good trial period for the DCR to start this, because if it works really well, they can do it in their other locations. One of the questions I do have, and I guess this is to direct to the DCR, is this intended maintenance to be done by DCR staff, or do you intend to contract it out?
Yeah, like we alluded to at the last meeting, we're going to assign it to our in-house staff, and we're going to work with the manufacturer's reps as well, because this is somewhat new technology. So we'll have them involved, and if it turns out that we need to outsource some portion of this, then that's what we'll need to do. But the idea is to get trained specifically on this. It's pretty simple. It's not an overly burdensome technology, which is why we selected it. But the idea is to have us do it and then supplement as needed to meet the O&M standards.
Right. We undertook a project like this over in East Boston in Central Square, and we chose to contract it out twice a year and get reports. And it isn't hard to do if somebody really wants to do it right. But that you got to make sure that staff you give it to want to do it right. So we'll watch it by seeing what reports come into the Concom when you get through with your analysis. So that would be fine. Other than that, I didn't have any problem. We did go over everything. It all should work. My only problem was the exit pipe. Make sure that works. And I'm sure we'll take care of all that. So other than that, I had no more questions.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time on this. Commissioner Linay?
Yeah, thanks for the additional information that following up on our last hearing. I think maybe one comment on the maintenance of the bioretention areas is just maybe an additional item to check for sedimentation in those, and just confirming that they're still infiltrating as they are designed to. I think that's my only comment, but thank you for the info.
Okay. And ostensibly that should be covered in the manufacturer's maintenance plan and the O&M plan. Or is this something different that you're...
I think in the O&M, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I'll make sure that is precisely covered. If the soil is to fail and no longer be infiltrating. It should be, but let me just confirm that. And if not, I'll follow up. Elena.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, thanks. Unfortunately, I missed the March 11th hearing, but this seems like an exciting improvement. I do have a recollection of this being a snow farm, maybe like an emergency snow farm along Soldiers Field-ish there. And that led me down some wild AI goose chase that made it sound like you guys were making snow and had groomed trails, but that was actually accessible trails out in Weston. So I'm not trusting my quick search in the meantime, but I was wondering if, from your recollection, especially I think in that winter of 2015, 2016, whether the site had been used as such, and whether there's alternatives or, if it had to be used as such in the future, how that might work.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I believe I asked that question last time.
Oh, all right. Good job. I didn't read
No,
in the
no,
notes,
it's a great
sorry.
question. John, I think you answered the question.
Yeah, it has not been used as a snow farm in quite some time. There were some smaller instances just due to the heavy storm within the parking lot itself, but and anything that we do is going to be gone through the commission if we're going to do anything within the jurisdiction, but it's not the same salt containers, snow sheds that Mass Highway has indulged in the past.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then the only other bit that also came to mind, and maybe Chair Parker, you covered this, was that there was some geotextiles for like Charles River dewatering that had been on site maybe in the past as well. Is there sort of provisions for that or alternatives to that sort of activity? I don't know how frequently that has to occur.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time? I apologize.
Oh, sorry. In like chasing this down, I came across that there had been some like geotextile, like Charles River dredge dewatering that had been on that site. I wasn't sure. I mean, that might have been a one-time only, how frequently that occurs. It's a site of opportunity for that sort of thing, but just whether there's alternatives or how you might think about that in the future.
Honestly, I can't speak to it. I'm not familiar with any dredging work in the river. We're here really just focused on this project, but
I'll try to give me another minute and I'll work on that. Other commissioners can ask some questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Conan.
I had a question about the phosphorus, and I just couldn't understand it. So maybe you could just provide some clarification. The bioretention is a good thing, right? So it should be removing more phosphorus. I kind of see that in the percentage, but don't quite see that under the pounds per year. So if you could just explain that.
If we go to slide 10. So the way this is calculated, and this is a summary sheet we made for coordination with John Sullivan and for this presentation. We have more detailed calculations in the stormwater report. Those may be what you're looking at, but essentially the total phosphorus reduction, the goal was 50% for redevelopment. So that in the bottom table, that 3.03, that's based off of the existing phosphorus loading from the site, which is it didn't make its way into this summary presentation. And then the bioretention basins, as shown in table 2 above, those cumulatively are removing 1.64 pounds per year. And so each bioretention basin has a certain volume of storage that is providing. Based off that volume of storage, we correlate it to a rainfall depth and then use the MS4 guidance to basically figure out how much actual phosphorus is being removed based off of the contributing impervious area, the rainfall depth provided, and then the associated phosphorus removal rate. So that's how we got to that 1.64, and that's pounds per year that's being removed by the bioretention basins. Similarly, above with the permeable concrete, that is treating 1.62 acres of imperviousness and removing a corresponding 1.79 pounds per year. And those two together, plus the reduction in impervious area, plus operational strategies, gets us above that 3.03. We're removing 3.73 pounds per year of phosphorus, which corresponds to 62% phosphorus reduction compared to the existing conditions. I don't know if did that answer your question?
Thank you, Jess. I mean, I think it gets at it. More specifically, does this mean that phosphorus removed by permeable concrete is more than that removed by the bioretention basins?
The only reason it's providing more in that 1.79 versus 1.64 is because there's slightly more area that's draining to
I
the
see.
permeable concrete.
Okay. 1.62 versus 1.47.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just a clarification question on the exit pipe cleaning. Is that meant to be part of the O&M, meaning a repeated process or a one-off? What is it that you're agreeing to?
A one-off prior to construction. So in terms of maintenance of the like cleaning out the existing pipes, I don't believe that is, let me check. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So in terms of cleaning out catch basins and things like that on the site, so we do have catch basins as backups in the permeable pavers. Those have regular O&M associated with them in terms of checking the sediment accumulation and cleaning them out. But in terms of actually vacuum cleaning out pipes, I don't believe that is part of regular maintenance unless there is a known failure.
And you won't even look in there to see how it's doing, any accumulation going or anything?
With a video, I think only if there are indications that an area is clogged, whereas with the deep sump and hooded catch basins, there's regular maintenance occurring, as well as with the bioretention basins and permeable pavement. John, do you agree that part of DCR's regular maintenance of closed storm drain networks does not include video and vacuuming pipes unless there's something indicating a blockage, probably?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't do that. But I did want to point out that the permeable concrete, the permeable concrete itself isn't removing the phosphorus. The water's getting to go through it. It's the permeable concrete system with the soils underneath it that are actually doing the work of removing the phosphorus. And then they go to an under drain, they go into that drainage system. And if it's all built right, there shouldn't be a lot of sediment buildup in the under drains at all. It should work very fine. Catch basins will catch anything that is on the surface that couldn't get through the permeable concrete. That'll capture the heavy sediments, but won't necessarily
Yeah.
be the primary thing for the phosphorus removal.
Yes, that will be, the catch basins are more intended as a backup. And
Yeah.
yes, you're right, I didn't go into that, but the way the MS4 permit calculates the phosphorus removed in permeable concrete, it's based off of the depth of the filter layers and stone below the concrete. So you're absolutely right, John. We're not really taking credit for water moving through the actual
Concrete, yeah.
panel.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thanks for both of those responses.
Oh, sorry. Now I understand your question better. Sorry about that. That makes sense.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson, you had a follow-up? You found some historical data here?
Well, yeah. Now that I'm deeply skeptical of the internet. No, so I do vaguely remember this, but in like 2015, 2016, there was some sediment removal for Faneuil Brook, and the dewatering took place at Herder Park. And that seems to have not occurred in basically recent memory. But given that so the geotubes were like, that's where the dewatering took place, given the large flat, surface with good drainage. And I was just kind of wondering, like, is that seems to be a one-off, but just wanted to double check in terms of like whether there's alternative sites for that sort of thing. If this is the site that is preferred, given other reasons, whether there's provisions in place for that type of activity to then happen in the future.
So I haven't been, just to go back, I'm not familiar with that particular endeavor, but I can speak to the fact that I think this location, because of its condition, size, swath of such a large space of pavement, has been a depository and probably used for a number of things in the past. With this project and this kind of investment that's going to happen at this location, and the fact that we're almost using this as a model for a lot of things, trying out some new innovative technologies, addressing our MS4 requirements. That kind of activity is just not going to happen at this location anyway. I'm not sure if it was 10 for years ago what happened, but that's not something that is planned as a long-term practice or any practice at this location. I
Okay.
can speak.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, and I think it was more coming from the perspective of like, if this is a regular enough activity in the DCR portfolio and you guys have been relying on this
Right.
location, whether you have alternatives or whether on site or in other locations as well. But it does seem to be sort of like a bit of a one-off type of thing. And, there's probably other locations in the city that would be amenable as well. It just doesn't, if it doesn't need to necessarily be DCR property right here for some other reason.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Estes-Margiassi, thank you for being so patient. Your turn.
At this point, no additional questions between last time and this. Some good explanation of the removal, though, with all the additional questions.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Elena, I noticed a hand raised.
Yes, I think was it Eva Webster?
Yes, hello, thank you. I am an Olson Brighton resident and I'm here for a different project, but I just had a glimpse of this one. And I wanted to clarify, this involves changing the configuration of the large parking lot near the river. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a general question, and I realize that it may be coming too late in the game, but as someone who goes to places like Home Depot and Costco, I notice people always are looking for parking spaces that get some shade in summertime. And when it's really, really hot, it's just so regrettable not to be able to park your car close to some tree. And I was wondering if the designers of DCR parking lots here or elsewhere could consider designing those parking lots in such a way that there would be some kind of a median between two rows of parked cars. So one tree could be between and help with the lack of shade in summertime.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Webster. I will I'll forward that question to the DCR representative. We are not especially charged with design. We look at projects as proposed and their impacts on wetlands resources. But John, if you wanted to speak to
Sure.
Eva's question.
Yeah, that's been sort of one of the driving factors of this design, not so much to address the stormwater management and the flood-prone nature of this location, but it's also to add more trees and add more shade around not just the perimeter, but through the spine of the lot as well. So that has been a focus of this design. We've had a lot of public input on the design itself. Some folks want more spaces, some folks want less spaces. It's a service to a lot of special events, so we tried to strike a balance with all those needs, and I think we've done a decent job with that. And we are excited about adding a lot more green to this particular footprint that doesn't exist today.
Great.
So,
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eva.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Anyone else, Elena?
I didn't see any other raised hands and nothing in our inbox either.
Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions with special conditions that the manufacturer's cleaning of the pavers or the surfaces be submitted to staff, so we have it in the record, and submit the revised O&M plan, which will include everything that we talked about. And I think there were 3 slides during the presentation that are now in the O&M.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Oh, and apologies. I just wanted to make sure we close the hearing as well.
No, understood.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and close the hearing. Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
And that includes the amended thing about TV and including the.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, so Commissioner Smargiassi, if you would accept a friendly amendment to include the cleaning out of the remaining
Yes.
pipes in the video inspection.
Yes, absolutely. So moved.
Okay. Commissioner Linay, do you second that?
Second. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that carries 6-0.
Thank
Okay,
you
thank
very
you.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2106 and Boston file number 2026-009 from Green International Affiliates, Inc. on behalf of the Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University for the proposed vegetation removal, herbicide applications, plantings, and other maintenance at 125 Arbor Way, Jamaica Plain, resource areas, inland bank, bordering vegetated wetland, land under waterways, bordering land subject to flooding, 25-foot riverfront area, isolated vegetated wetlands, 25-foot waterfront area, 100-foot buffered inland bank, 100-foot buffer to BVW, and 100-foot buffer to isolated vegetated wetlands. I think that's every resource we have, right?
Quite a list.
Yeah.
I'm going to recuse myself. Sorry.
Thank
Interrupt
you.
Yeah.
Okay, who's here on behalf of the proponent?
And Chair Parker, apologies. Before the project team gets into this, I just wanted to include this slide as sort of an overview before the project team starts to present. As you review these two filings, you probably notice that they sound pretty similar, and we just wanted to have sort of a clear breakdown of the overview of work that is proposed under each permit. The reason that they needed to be divided in this way is because if a project is filed as an ecological restoration limited project, then the scope of that project has to be specifically fit that description under the regulations, and it can't incorporate any other scopes of work. And so that's why, we are receiving two filings, and the commission is reviewing those tonight, and they sound very similar, and they will probably be, done in tandem. But administratively, they had to be processed separately.
Okay, I appreciate that. Question on that.
Yes.
Proponent will seek to authorize associated work under AA or AOC.
Oh, yes, an administrative approval or potentially an amendment. So just to clarify that the filings as we receive them cover everything that they believe they're going to need to do, but they understand that, if anything needs to change, they'll come back to the commission. We'll determine what the appropriate path forward is. And the other note on this is that the project team understands that the order is not, if the commission votes to issue an order of conditions, it won't be in perpetuity. They would request an extension as needed every 3 years. So those are just the sort of administrative notes. But the idea is to have this in place so that they're able to conduct the maintenance that the Arboretum needs.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eleanor. Okay, who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Danny Schisler. I'm Head of Operations and Project Management at the Arboretum. I'm joined here by Rodney Easton, Director of Horticulture and Landscape. Rachel Brinkman, Manager of Horticulture.
Before you go on, Danny, Ava, could you mute yourself, please? We're getting feedback. Okay, thank you. Danny?
Sure. Yeah, Rachel Brinkman, Manager of Horticulture, Z Porter, Associate Project Manager, Oksana Fartushnaya, and Sam Spellman of Lochner, who are our environmental consultants for this application.
Great. Floor is all yours.
Thank you. I'll start with a little bit of background on our organization. So the Arnold Arboretum is a city-owned park managed by Harvard under a long-standing public-private partnership. It's also designated as a National Historic Landmark. We welcome millions of visitors a year into the Arboretum while stewarding a globally significant living collection of woody plants, much of the collection located within and adjacent to wetland resource areas. We're here with you tonight in support of two notices of intent that together establish a long-term framework for the responsible stewardship of the Arboretum. The first addresses routine vegetation management and ecological restoration, including invasive species control and targeted planting. This work is essential to improving habitat quality, maintaining public safety and access, and supporting ecological health across wetland and buffer areas throughout the landscape. The second NOI addresses emergency irrigation infrastructure along with routine repair and maintenance of paths, stream banks, and related features. The emergency irrigation components are critical to protecting mature and irreplaceable trees during increasingly frequent drought conditions, while also improving water use efficiency and reducing reliance on labor-intensive manual watering. Both projects have been carefully designed to avoid and minimize impacts, rely on limited project and ecological restoration provisions where appropriate, and in many cases provide net ecological benefits. Most importantly, they reflect a continuation of 153 years of stewardship of an important historic landscape and public garden. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sam, who will walk you through the notices in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Spellman. I'm with Green International Affiliates, Lochner Company, to present the first of the two hearings before the Commission tonight. Next slide, please. All right, so just to provide some geographic context, this is the project location. The Arnold Arboretum is located within the neighborhood of Jamaica Plain and then also Roslindale. Next slide, please. So, as Danny mentioned, this particular filing is an Ecological Restoration Limited project with the aim of improving wildlife habitat quality, water quality, groundwater recharge, and flood storage within the Arboretum property. And it seeks to accomplish these objectives through a variety of means, particularly vegetation management. And they propose several activities as part of that vegetation management plan. First, they want to use mechanical and manual removal of invasive and nuisance plant species. They want to provide herbicide treatment to invasive and nuisance species where needed. And then they also want to implement intentional plantings of native and then carefully selected non-native but non-invasive plant species to augment the existing collections and improve habitat quality in the park. Next slide, please. Here you can see the resource areas that were identified on site in the Arboretum. In the northern portions, you have Goldsmith Brook and the adjoining bordering vegetated wetlands. In the central and eastern portions of the park, you have several ponds. Next slide, please. And then in the southern portions of the Arboretum, you have Bussy Brook, which traverses across the Arboretum in a west to easterly direction. And then there are several BVW systems that are associated with that stream as well. And then in the southernmost portions of the Arboretum, you have several isolated vegetated wetlands. Next slide, please. This slide here shows a representative sample of the impact plans that we designed for the vegetation management. A couple things to draw to your attention. We want to point out that the vegetation maintenance occurring as part of this project is going to occur on an as-needed basis, where the Arboretum determines it's most needed. And the impact plans that we designed should be interpreted with the focus that all of the areas we depict for impacts represent the maximum potential extent of work and will represent the total area in which activities may occur as part of this NOI filing. Next slide, please. We want to re-emphasize that this project does not propose any permanent impacts to wetland resource areas. All of the impacts proposed as part of the vegetation management will be temporary in nature, but the goal of these temporary impacts will be to improve the quality of the wetland resource areas on site, which will allow them to perform their vital functions more efficiently, which in the long term will advance the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. Next slide, please. With that, I think we'll hand it back to the Commission for questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay, before we get going, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. I don't really have any questions on this. Eleanor, what do you have?
Yeah, so I think that this is very related to what I said at the beginning before the presentation started, but I did want to flag the fact that DP had the technical comment on this filing saying that work that is included under this permit should only happen while the permit is valid. So again, speaking to the longevity of the permit, the idea that this is going to be extended so that the work can continue. So DEP did make that comment, but again, this is something that the project team was already aware of.
Yeah. So Danny, you're aware of that. I think you're very well aware with our orders of conditions. They have a duration for 3 years, and we don't have any other options in our toolkit here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I guess appreciate you sharing the map/site plan there. In our documents, I didn't see any of those. I don't know if that was just a transmission or my error, but that was very helpful. And then if I don't know whether we're considering both NOIs at the same time, but I was just if we are considering the irrigation one as well, I was curious about the plans for that.
Yeah, no, that's coming up next. Preview
Okay,
of coming attractions.
Okay, but yeah, appreciated the map. Thank you. I've seen it a couple times before, and yeah, it's always a work in progress, and seen it many years, and only gets better over time. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Conan.
Thanks, Sir Parker. Just I may have missed this. Is this geographical scope of the work the entire arboretum?
No, so there are sections of the Arboretum that are not included. Maybe Danny can point out the specific areas that have been excluded from this work.
Yeah, the work included in the NOI is only areas of jurisdiction. It also does not include everything to the east of South Street, which we have a separate maintenance plan that's essentially an agreement between the Conservation Commission and the Boston Parks Department, since it is also an urban wild.
I see. Okay, thank you. So there are parts, but they're outside of jurisdiction, so you didn't mention them here. And specifically about the herbicide administration and management, can you say more about how that'll be contained, its impact will be contained?
So I'll turn that one over to Rodney Eason, our Director of Horticulture and Landscape.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Any applicator who will do the treatments, Canon, they will be licensed and certified according to the state of Massachusetts, and they will only do spot treatments. So typically it's outlined in the submission if, for example, if there's an invasive exotic plant that's in the wetland, ideally they would cut it and then spot treat right on the stem to avoid any sort of drift. That's probably the primary application method that would be done in the wet areas.
Rodney, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Rachel Brinkman, the manager of horticulture at the Arboretum. I just wanted to add one detail to Rodney is that there is wetland or aquatic safe herbicides that are the only ones that would be used within the buffer zone or wetland edge.
I see.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, we will only use products as they are legally labeled.
Right. Okay. And they're legally labeled already to take into consideration the possible impact elsewhere and to mitigate that, I hope. Last question. Mechanical and manual removal of invasives. So will that affect the soil in any way or do you cut it at the ground level? How does that removal take place?
Sure. If it's on a stream bank, for example, then we would flush cut it and leave it so we wouldn't have any erosion on the stream bank. If it's upland from that area, we would do our best efforts to If it's a small plant, we use like a weed wrench to remove it and avoid any kind of erosion into the wet areas. If it's really away from the area, Canaan, we will use a small stump grinder, which would be localized to that area.
I see. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks, Air Parker.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Estes Margiazzi?
No further comments. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. I did have a follow-up on the legally labeled herbicides. I guess the question is, I'm familiar with like FIFRA and having to follow the directions on the label. Is there a scenario where someone would get, like, I don't know what you would call it, like smuggle in non-labeled herbicide treatments?
I'll give an example and then hand it back to Rachel because she has been licensed in the state of Massachusetts. But like for example, glyphosate. Glyphosate has different formulations, and there's one formulation specifically legally labeled for use near wet areas, and we would only use that formulation as opposed to a broad formulation, which would be illegal to use in the adjacent areas. And then Rachel, you want to add to that?
Sure. So whenever you use pesticides, we're really quite strict. I have a 20-person team, and everyone on my team is a certified applicator. And we're only allowed to use products that I myself have bought for uses on the landscape. So there's, as Rodney said, there's specific products, and they're really specific for exactly what type of use, where, and how much you're allowed to use it. And so, the label's the law, and you have to follow it exactly. And really, that's the end of story.
Understood. So again, I'm familiar with FIFRA, and what you're saying implies that that program might be delegated, and I don't know, who would it be? Mass Agricultural, or there's a state agency that regulates pesticides as well?
MDAR, Massachusetts Department of Agriculture and Recreation, they certify and monitor and regulate all pesticide applications within the state.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we now have a good question to ask future proponents regarding the labeling on the pesticides. Okay, thank you. Elena, I saw something in the chat. Let's see. I think it was Maya. I don't know if she wants to ask this question. I can ask them really quickly. Love the project. I had two clarifying questions regarding the timeline of the project. When will maintenance and planting begin?
So this work really constitutes what we've been doing for 150 years, so it's ongoing. But planting typically happens around this time in spring and then again in fall.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll add, sorry, this is Rodney. I'll add that, for example, in our large wet meadow, we outlined in the submission that we would wait until that is frozen. So we would not cause any disturbance or compaction in that wet area. When it's frozen, then our staff can walk out and remove or cut some of the invasive exotics that have started to seed into that area.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then second question, not really within our jurisdiction, more curiosity. How will the project be funded? Who's funding it?
This will come out of our operational budget, which is funded by largely by our endowment. That was set up by the founders of the Arboretum a long time ago. And if you're referring to the irrigation project, that is completely donor funded. So we're finishing our last phase of that, which you'll hear about soon. And I think it's $7 million total that will be raised by our advancement team for that project.
Okay, great teaser for the irrigation project here. So, Elena, do we have any other hands up or emails?
We didn't receive any other emails, and I am not seeing any hands or anything else in the chat.
Okay, let's get to the irrigation. So I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close this hearing. Do
So moved.
you have a second?
I mean, if you want to rotate your blank, it's totally fine. And to get this
I'm sorry, someone
on your board. If you want to keep them aligned, it's
okay.
And
Good,
second.
thank you. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Linay. I'm sorry, she recused
She
herself.
recused, yeah.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Conan,
Aye.
Commissioner Estes-Margiazzi,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda. Notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2109, Boston file number 2026-012 from Green International Affiliates, Inc. on behalf of the Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University for proposed irrigation network extension, path, and footbridge maintenance and mowing and pruning at 125 Arbor Way in Jamaica Plain. Resource areas, inland bank, land under waterways, bordering land subject to flooding, 25-foot riverfront area, 25-foot waterfront area, 100-foot buffer to inland bank, 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetland, and 100-foot buffer to isolated vegetated wetland. Danny, are you up again?
I think Danny already gave his piece, so I think I'm going to jump right in and
Okay.
introduce the second filing. So again, Sam Spellman here with Green International Affiliates. I'm honored to be here to present this filing to the commission. So this is for the second filing for the irrigation and routine maintenance project. All right, next slide, please. Again, just showing you the project location. Hasn't changed since the last 5 minutes went by, so we'll move to the next slide. So the proposed work as part of this filing will include a variety of maintenance activities that the Arboretum is proposing to maintain their existing infrastructure. That'll consist of gravel and mulch path maintenance, which does qualify as a limited project when it occurs in riverfront only. We also have wooden footbridge maintenance at several locations in the Arboretum. Another maintenance activity proposed is the rehabilitation of certain sections of the Bussy Brook stream bank. And then in addition to these maintenance activities, as Danny mentioned in his intro, the Arboretum is also seeking to extend their existing emergency irrigation network, which will provide coverage to the collections in times of drought, which the Arboretum believes are becoming much more frequent as a result of climate change. Next slide, please. We again have an overview of the resource areas that were identified on site. We can move forward. Next slide, please. And next slide. So this slide here depicts the a sample of the proposed path maintenance and bridge maintenance, or an area where it will be occurring. You can see in the image on the left, this is a bridge going over Goldsmith Brook in the northern portions of the Arboretum, as well as the adjoining path. You can see in some sections of the path, it's a little bit uneven. You can see that, holes have developed, and the goal of the path maintenance throughout the Arboretum will consist of essentially restoring this path to its pre-existing conditions to ensure navigability and safety for the visitors of the Arboretum. And the same thing will be true for the bridge maintenance. The Arboretum is seeking to essentially make repairs to the bridge structure as needed to repair these bridges and keep them in good working order. They're not proposing any expansion of the paths or bridges, just seeking to repair the existing bridge. All right, next slide, please. So here you can see on the left a section of Bussy Brook in the southern portions of the Arboretum, adjacent to the eastern edge. You can see due to development upstream of this location, flows in this area, the flow velocities have increased over time, and that's caused the stream banks to degrade and collapse these boulders into the stream channel. What the Arboretum is proposing is the use of hand tools and Arboretum staff to basically just replace these boulders, put them back up on the stream bank, with the hope that this will ultimately prevent future erosion by stabilizing those banks there. Next slide, please. Here we have just a representative sample of location where some of the emergency irrigation will be installed. In the plan sheet sample you can see on the right, you can see that the irrigation piping is going to be installed almost right along Hemlock Hill Road, which in the image to the left is just out of view beyond the trees and grass lawn. So we just want to demonstrate the fact that as is the case with most of the irrigation piping being installed here, it's being installed within these grassed areas away from the stream channel and other resource areas. And most of the impacts are going to be happening within the 100-foot buffer zone with minor intrusions into the waterfront and riverfront area. I think Elena mentioned it briefly in the intro that at the request of the commission, some minor impacts to BBW were removed, so those are no longer occurring, and all of the impacts are just going to be to the buffer zone, waterfront, and riverfront area. Next slide, please. This slide shows just another example of the location where the irrigation network will be installed in the grassed area just adjacent to the road. Next slide, please. I want to highlight the fact that out of all the activities proposed by this project, the only one resulting in minor permanent impacts will be the boulder replacement to stabilize the banks in Bussy Brook. And all of the other impacts proposed by this project will be temporary in nature. Next slide, please. We want to highlight the fact that the Arboretum is going to utilize best management practices when performing these activities, and then also installing the irrigation network to make sure that disturbances to wetland resource areas are limited to the greatest extent possible. Yeah, I think that's all we have here. Next slide, please. And we'll go to the commission for questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sam. So I know the answer to this question isn't that you're going to be picking up the boulders and moving them yourself. So I expected that there'd be machinery doing that, but I see in your last slide here that hand tools are being used. What sort of hand tool moves a boulder? Could you just go into the process of how that's accomplished?
Either a crowbar, depending on the size of the boulder, or some kind of tripod system with a pulley and or a winch.
Okay. Maybe I'll leave the follow-up question to Commissioner Wilson. I'm not sure. I understand it. I'm not sure what the impacts would be. Okay. That's all I had. Elena, what do you have on this?
Yes, didn't have anything else beyond what we mentioned at the top, and I failed to mention this earlier, but we do have some photos from our site visit, which we conducted last week.
Great. How long did you stay out there? The site visit had to last like 3 hours,
Yeah,
right?
no, we were out there for a bit. Thankfully,
Yeah.
the Arboretum had arranged for us to be in a van. It was pretty chilly on Thursday, so very
Oh.
thankful for that. But yeah, no, we spent some time out there, and it was really great to be able to see all of the potential project sites, and yeah, also got to see more of the Arboretum, which is always great.
That's great. The lungs of the city.
Truly.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, and the irrigation system, is that normally not charged? And when you do charge it up with water, how do you irrigate? Is it you put stuff into the soil? Do you have spray guns, or how does that work?
So it's mostly large sprinkler heads, and all of it is controlled by a centralized control system that Rainbird makes for golf courses that's connected to several weather stations. So it's a smart system. It learns from historic weather data and from current conditions how much water we need to apply during times of drought. The watering happens at night so that we're not seeing evaporation during the day, and so that we don't have guests in the landscape. And Commissioner Sullivan, it is typically winterized from around November to early May.
And by winterized, you mean drained?
Yes, drained and blown
You're
out.
not chemical or nothing, right?
No.
And the feed, I know you got a feed off of Walter Street in the garage, in the building there. Is there
Yes.
another feed beside that feed?
Yes, so this final phase of irrigation will be fed by two sources. One is the garage in Walter Street, which last year we extended across Flora Way to serve these new areas around Bussy Brook. And then the second is the Dana Greenhouse at 1050 Center Street. We upsized the water service to that building. We replumbed the entire building, both the domestic and all of the nursery, greenhouse, and irrigation coming off of that, reduce the amount of backflows. It's a lot better now. So that's the second source.
Yeah. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but you don't have any bubblers off of the system at all, right? It's a separate irrigation.
Not off the irrigation. Any bubblers are coming off domestic water with their own
Right.
backflows and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I just need you to put that on the record.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I had.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, I gotta take inspiration from Commissioner Sullivan, never asking a question you don't know the answer to beforehand. But I'm going to make that mistake just now. I guess you guys have Bussy Brook is beautiful. It's very naturalistic and like sort of Olmstedian genre that we're trying to perpetuate. I guess at some point there will come a point where picking the boulders up by hand, crowbarring them, and everything like that isn't going to be sufficient for a 3-year continuing maintenance cycle. Have you guys started planning for that moment? Have you thought about, how the stream might want to change shape or change form? Obviously there's landscape architects crawling all over this property multiple times a year. Just how are you sort of thinking about the future sort of adaptive management of this? That probably involves capital maintenance as opposed to, ongoing operating funds.
Sure, that's a great question. There has been thinking about the long-term health of Bussy Brook, which is obviously an important waterway within the property we manage. The reality of Bussy Brook is that it was very built. The banks of Bussy Brook basically were stone walls that have blown apart over the years with the increased amount of water and the increased velocity coming through Bussy Brook. And a lot of that has to do with upstream development and the catchment that feeds it, as well as lack of best management practices upstream of the Arboretum. So it's a big problem for us. We see a lot of undermining of the banks. That means collections collapse into the banks, and the walls have long since been blown apart. So I'll be honest with you, what we're describing in our NOI, we do not have plans to do this at a large scale. This is really infrequent interventions in specific spots to try and mitigate the undermining of the banks and the collections. In terms of a larger restoration project, that is really outside of our resources right now. It's a project that would very likely need to be a collaboration between the city and the Arboretum. And I think it is very much needed, and I hope that we see some movement on that during my time during my tenure at the Arboretum. But again, it's a very large project, and I think it would really need the attention of several agencies.
And I'll add, Commissioner Wilson, our landscape team, what we've been doing differently over the past decade or so is we're designating parts of the landscape where we do not mow, and we allow the herbaceous layer to get longer, which will allow for better absorption of rainfall. And I'll add that separate from this project, in another location, we do have a pilot project with the City of Boston starting this year. We're taking an area from Poplar Gate up to the ring road at at Peters Hill, and the city's going to switch that over to porous asphalt to see how that might help with water absorption across the site.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I appreciate it, and I totally acknowledge you guys are takers of a lot of conditions that are coming from upstream. I mean, I think one of the things that sort of just to, I don't need to plant the seed in your head because you're there already. It is a research facility, right, for the public benefit, and in the way that we've been using Boston Harbor as sort of a living, laboratory. And you guys have been as well. This might be one of those places to start thinking about, sort of riverine conditions. I know Commissioner Sullivan has lots of ideas on this as well, and there's probably lots of ability for collaboration. So, yeah, short-term maintenance totally makes sense, but one of those things where it's like if we could start thinking about, whether we restore it to original conditions, whether we just put back what fell down, whether we introduce new materials, or new stream forms, that's like one of those things. And, sort of over my time on the commission, I've seen. So, no, appreciate you guys, being good stewards of the site and always coming before us to share what your newest ideas are. So thank you.
I'll just add, Commissioner Wilson, we have had conversations with Commissioner Sullivan about this in the past, as well as the Office of Green Infrastructure. And I think there's a lot of potential to look at a much better design to slow and store water along Bussey Brook, but also enhance the collection spaces at the same time and not compromise them. So we are always willing to engage the city on long-term planning for Bussey Brook. So thanks for that great question.
And the good news for all of you is we'll be completing a flooding study, inundation for the whole city at the end of this year. And we have great plans for the Arboretum.
Okay. I'm feeling some heartburn hearing that.
Yeah.
Danny doesn't know how to take that.
Are we going to get an Evite, Commissioner Sullivan?
It'll be a long discussion. And I agree with you, velocities. In fact, up further, we were going to do some work cleaning out some brook along where the rehabilitation hospital is. And we decided not to because that would have simply sent the water to you quicker. And if you think you got velocities now, cleaning upstream there, sending it down to you without delaying it would really make it exciting. So we didn't do that. Good news. And we'll be talking back and forth, but you may get all these big boulders moved by water sewer guys at some point in time.
So the favorite part of my job is just throwing out an issue that I'm not all that familiar with, like removing the boulders, and then we have commissioners ask great questions. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I did have a follow-up, and I think it was just answered in this discussion, but regarding upstream conditions and how it would undermine the bank, are we talking about velocities, or are we talking about other things like debris coming downstream?
That's a good question. So we commissioned a study in the early aughts called the Descheng Report, which is like a 500-page report of Bussey Brook. If anyone's interested in going through that, I would be happy to send that along. It was a really interesting study where the impacts on the stream were studied, including sediment migration, as well as it also explored some alternatives for restoring and stabilizing the stream. My impression is that velocity is our main issue right now, and we're not seeing a ton of sediment. Occasionally, we do have construction sediment coming down, and whenever that happens, I usually send a heads up to Water and Sewer and sometimes Concom. But yeah, I think it's mostly velocity and volume.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Conan?
Thank you. I'm not touching or moving any boulders, but I do have questions about the brook itself. Sam, you made a sort of a casual comment about, I mean, we've been referring to this all along, development upstream. has had some impact, and you were mainly referring to the amount of water that's flowing in the brook, I think. Can you elaborate on that?
I was making a statement, I think, that was based on information that was provided to me by the Arboretum, so I think maybe they could speak better to that. I just know that in that particular location, where it goes under Hemlock Hill Road, it does go through a culvert. So I would imagine that there'd be a lot of water that gets quite channelized, especially with those built up rock banks there. And so I would assume that it would just be a lot of water moving through at a fast pace. But I would leave that to the Arboretum if they do have any other additional information about exactly what is causing the increased velocities in this area.
It's a good question. I would think the property right upstream of us, the Hebrew Senior Rehab, there's very little slowing of stormwater through their property. It's basically a riprap channel that the water flows through right before it enters the Arboretum. So that was always my impression that was the main culprit, but I'm sure the Deschênes report could fill in the blanks there. I'm sorry, I don't have much more than that.
No, that's fine. Maybe the scope of the report was wide enough to kind of talk about the causes as well. So I'll certainly take a look at that. I was looking at. Sorry.
The thing that we've been observing is that in the summer, especially when we can go 2 or 3 weeks with periods of drought, when we do get rain events, they can have microbursts where we just get a ton of rainfall in a short period of time, and the ground just cannot absorb it. And so it rapidly fills Bussey Brook.
Yeah, that is one of the unfortunate consequences of some of the unpredictable weather, as well as soil not being prepared to absorb the water. I was looking at a couple of the pictures that Elena had taken during the site visit, and it does look like there is something. It doesn't look like a boulder or a stone or anything. It actually looks like concrete. I don't know if how I can be sure, but just the shape of it and the look of it, I'm not sure how such a thing would get in there. Not sure if you all have access to the pictures that Elena took, but it does look like the brook has some pieces that very artificial pieces in there.
I would not be surprised if there were some mortar or concrete holding parts of that wall together at some point.
Okay, so the restoration of the banks that you're referring to, is that just to repair what's already affected, or is it more to create capacity for the future?
Again, we don't really have any definite plans. We actually included this so that it would permit us to make spot repairs in the future as needed to mitigate further damage. So it's really not about trying to restore the brook at a larger scale or prepare for the future. It's more about just halting the loss that we're seeing now.
I see.
And for example, during the walkthrough, there's an area in our rhododendron collection that's adjacent to the lower end of Bussey Brook, where the erosion is causing a wall to begin to collapse. And if that wall were to collapse completely, not only would it fall in, but several mature rhododendrons would fall in behind it, and then it would become a public safety issue where we'd have to close off walkways.
As you already do sometimes, right?
We do periodically, but not we haven't had to yet in that particular area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Estes Marchiazzi.
This point in the evening, a long enough discussion. Thanks for the
Thank
material
you.
already.
Thank you. Elena, any hands up I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands.
No, I
No
don't
hands.
either. I'm not seeing anything in our inbox.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Conan.
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 5-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 0062113 and Boston file number 2026-015 from AECom on behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation for the proposed improvements to the sidewalk and drainage system along the Chestnut Hill Reservoir at Commonwealth Avenue in Alston. Resource area, 25-foot waterfront area and 100-foot buffer to inland bank. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hello, Heidi Fisher from AECom, and I believe that Tom Bolton from DCR is also on the call.
Great, thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. This will be the Chestnut Hill Reservoir Trail Sidewalk Replacement and Drainage Improvements project. Next slide, please. We actually go back just one. My apologies. Great. I just wanted to go ahead and show the extent of the project area. So where the blue dot there is beginning, it's the northernmost section of the project area. It's located near Boston College football stadium at the intersection of Campanella Way and Chestnut Hill Driveway. And then the southern expanse of the project area is at the very southern limit of the reservoir, which is down there by the intersection of Beacon Street and Reservoir Road. You can go ahead, next slide now, please. Great. So we want to include a couple of projects just to show the state of the conditions at the reservoir. So the two pictures here are showing the pedestrian pathway. As you can see, there's been quite a bit of deterioration of the paved path there, erosion from constant wear from the drainage issues being experienced at the reservoir, the runoff from Beacon Street being carried over and coming down towards the reservoir, and then just the wear and tear from use. So as you can see here, there's a definite need for the replacement of the paved pathway. Next slide. And this is just the northern limits of the project area. I wanted to show a picture. Next slide. Southern limits here with the reservoir located on the right, and that intersection of Beacon Street and Reservoir Road in the background. Next slide. So the scope of work for this project includes, as I stated before, the repair of the existing pedestrian pathway, as well as the restoration of the existing stone dust path. This will be roughly in the existing alignment. It'll be about 2,100 linear feet of the existing trail going around the reservoir. The improvement of the pedestrian pathway will result in a small decrease in the impervious surface. So there will be a smaller footprint, and that will be any areas that will not be having a new impervious surface will have grass restoration. And then just also along that, the trailway, there's various benches, and the plan is to also remove the concrete pads that are in deteriorated state and to replace those in situ. In addition, we will be proposing 2 new stormwater management features. Those include a bioretention swale and a bioretention garden, and those will be located parallel to the existing pedestrian pathway. And as I mentioned before, that will be addressing the runoff from Beacon Street to infiltrate runoff prior to reaching the reservoir. And then in addition to this work, we also, DCR has also noted a large poison ivy stand located at the southern limit of the pedestrian pathway. And so the plan will be to remove that large poison ivy stand via hand pulling sometime in late spring or fall, and then to replace it with native or non-invasive species. Next. So the resource areas that are coincide with the limits of this work will include the 100-foot buffer zone to the bank resource area associated with the Chestnut Hill Reservoir, as well as the 25-foot waterfront area. The majority of this work will be mostly related to temporary impacts associated with the installation of soil and erosion controls and temporary work associated with paving. And then the permanent impacts will constitute as a very small portion of the overall work that will be conducted with impacts to the waterfront area and the buffer zone. Next slide. Okay, great. And so we wanted to provide plan view with an overall idea of where these features will be in relation to the Chestnut Hill Reservoir Trail. So it's a little bit, we're a little bit zoomed out here, but just to kind of give an overall idea, the yellow hatched area, it's inclusive of both the new bioretention swale, as well as the work that will be done for the restoration of the sidewalk and the stone dust path. And then that green hatched area will be encompassing of the bioretention rain garden. We can go ahead and this is the beginning of the project area. So the next slide, and then this will be the southern limit of the project area. So the restoration of the stone dust path and the sidewalk will carry down, and then the rain garden will carry down as well, with the that patch of the poison ivy being kind of located towards the end there. Next slide. And again, we're a little bit zoomed out here, but just wanted to give an overall plan view of what we're looking for. So the top image is the beginning of the project work with the bioretention swale, sort of in that linear feature that you see there. And then the image on the bottom is sort of the limit of where the bioretention swale ends, and then the beginning of where the rain garden begins. And that's sort of at the intersection of Beacon Street and I believe that's Campanella Way. And Tom, please, feel free to jump in if I ever get anything wrong here. But they don't overlap there. It's kind of where one starts and then the next one begins to carry it down to the rest of the way. Next slide. And that large oval feature there, that's just where the poison ivy is. So that's the end of the project area there. And then we can go ahead and go to the next image, because it'll give a section view to just give a better idea of what these what the features will look like. So you can see on the left-hand side we have Beacon Street, and then we show the grading, which will be approximately 2% to come from Beacon Street down to where the stormwater features will be. And so where the rain garden is going to be, it's going to be located between Beacon Street and the sidewalk in between, where it's currently a grassy area. And then the bioretention swale, which is located in the northern part of the project limits, that will be actually located between the reservoir and the walking path. Next slide. And we just want to provide additional section view to give an idea of what the detail here will be. And that's all I have. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. First off, could you just quickly go through the erosion controls proximate to the sidewalk there? I know it's pretty tight quarters with the reservoir. What's the plan there?
Yeah, so I believe that there will be fencing put into place around the project limits.
I believe erosion controls are going to be Chair Parker. Erosion controls are going to be like at the toe of the slope, but just around the edge of the reservoir itself, and then turning in on each end of at the terminus of at each end of the project, with fencing, controlling the rest of the site where pedestrians and people would be walking. But actual erosion controls will be at the toe of the slope before it goes down into the reservoir.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So then the other question have here, Heidi, is the difference between the swale and the garden here. So my understanding for bioretention swales was there was some sort of treatment, and then the difference, and I might be wrong here, the difference with a garden was more infiltration. But as I'm looking at the slides, both features seem to infiltrate and then release somewhere on the subsurface, I believe. Is that
Yeah.
right?
To my understanding, I will say that I am not part of the design team for this project, but I will say that my understanding of this is that the drainage pipes will connect into the existing drainage features that are existing at the site. I believe that for the bioretention swale, I believe that the piping is more intensive in terms of that infiltration, and that the rain garden is more of based primarily more on the plantings and the sediment that's located within the design.
Okay, so the garden, it's fair to say more passive type of
Yes, that's
game.
my understanding.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Eleanor, what do you have on this?
Thank you. I didn't have anything else to add. I think this may have been covered in the project presentation, but my understanding is that there might be future improvements like this proposed around the reservoir, but that might be years down the line. So for now, this is an area where we've seen some issues with flooding, so it seems like a great place to start. And then there is a public comment that we had received via email from Jeff Goldman, and that is in the drive folder for the commission's review.
Okay, thank you. On that note, I want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, when did you intend to start this project?
Good question, John. We do not have funding secured for this project right now, so the earliest would be FY27. But taking into mind the football stadium events and Boston College as a whole, we'll be working closely with everybody, all the stakeholders, to make sure that the schedule fits everybody's timeline.
Yeah, and what do you do with the walking public that's there all the time while you're trying to do this work? Where do you put them?
John, it doesn't matter. As you well know, it doesn't matter how hard you plan. Public just doesn't follow the directions that sometimes are so straightforward. So we'll do our best to keep them off the trail, or maybe minimize. It'll be a means and methods things for the contractor, but in a perfect world, we would keep them off the work site while we're working. But there could be some compromise to allow passage through a narrow corridor. I don't see that as optimal, but that I guess that could happen.
Are there special DEP requirements given this is a emergency reservoir for drinking water supply?
No,
there's none there.
No, we've been waiting. So Heidi's didn't mention it at the beginning, but we've been working really closely with the MWRA on this. And this, aside from the erosion that was coming from Beacon Street, which BWSC and your group addressed with an emergency cert about 9 months ago to fix most of that issue, if not all. The existing pathway now pitches to the reservoir. So MWRA has been complaining to us for years that there's been sediment and runoff going directly into the reservoir. This plan changes that. It reverses the pitch away from the reservoir, and we catch it in bioretention in rain garden swales. So,
and I assume that you any of the under drains, there's no new connections to the water and sewer drainage system, because we wouldn't be able to allow them right now. I just want to throw that out there.
I understand that. No, they're all existing connections, and they're really being utilized for overflow.
No, I understand. I'm just saying if there's something you need to connect, it's an issue right now. So,
Gotcha.
no, and that's all I had.
Thank you, John.
Seems logical. We had a lot of talk about the MWRA. Seems logical to go to Commissioner Essa Smargiassi to continue this discussion.
No, we Thanks. We do appreciate the fact that this section of the pathway is being remedied. I know, and we've heard from some of the stakeholders anxiety about the fact that it's only this one part and not the rest of the way around. Can you add anything on? You don't have funding for this piece, but I assume you don't have funding for the rest. Is there any expectation to be moving on to the rest of the way around?
There is an expectation. Unfortunately, it won't be in my group. The landscape group and the trails group will be, taking over the rest of the trail around the rest of the reservoir, working closely with John Gregoire from the MWRA and other stakeholders. But this section can't. So I'm the director of the stormwater section at DCR, and this section of the path was brought to my attention because of the ongoing erosion and stormwater issues, and that's why this was addressed so quickly. The rest of the trail does need to be addressed, but it'll be addressed by a different group.
All right. Well, that's sort of disappointing that it's not, that good that it's siloed and that it got you moving on this piece, but bad that it means the rest of it's being held back. Your responses on the access around the path, it's going to be a big issue. Because folks go
acknowledge that. Yeah,
folks go around the reservoir, they don't go part way.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it may come down to working with the city of Boston to create a lane on Beacon Street to divert traffic. And right now the paved pathway down at the reservoir kind of acts as the sidewalk for Beacon Street. There is no sidewalk up there, but there is I think they just paved a new and striped a multi-use bike path. So there is opportunity to try. We'll have to work with City of Boston closely to try to work something out like that.
I'm going to assume that's going to be a big chunk of the rest of your headache to get this thing actually in construction is the temporary access issues.
Agreed.
Yeah, and obviously we'll be very interested in understanding that during construction, you're managing dust and dirt and any movement. It's great that it's because it slopes now towards the reservoir. Anything during construction is only going to be worse. So I assume some sort of erosion sock all the way around the top of the riprap is planned.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, glad that you're doing it. Sorry, it's not the whole project, and I know we have been in pretty regular contact on this piece. So thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Commissioner Smargiassi, I'd ask you a quick question here for your reaction. What about fugitive or airborne dust emission? Do you see that as a problem, or?
I'm assuming when I think erosion control, I'm waterborne and airborne, so managing dust during construction when everything's torn up, keeping it damp or only small areas disrupted at a time, so you don't have 1,000 feet of this open and dried out during windy times. It seems like you're going to have a bunch of those issues. It is an emergency reservoir.
I will state that at present time the existing conditions is a stone dust path.
I don't mind the stone dust path. It's when you're going to have to. Are you removing the asphalt and replacing, or just patching?
No, we're removing and replacing.
Yeah. So it's you're gonna have
like any other absolutely. I like any other construction site that we there's always we're always paying attention to dust and anything like that. So that'll all be controlled. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's an emergency reservoir. Which I hope never to use it during your project. But when we need to use it, we need to use it in a hurry. So. Keeping it in as best condition as possible. So, and we may have
I will say that the whole plan was vetted through and with the MW. We sent the plan to the MWRA and incorporated all of their comments.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Related to the topic of the extent of the project, is that related to where the path is below the elevation of Beacon Street? Is that how it was selected?
That's correct.
Okay, makes sense. And maybe people will be happy that you're only doing a segment at a time. I've had some experience with that on my projects. People don't love, wholesale closures, but
Well, it's whether it's sequential. That's the problem. Do you get to tear the Band-Aid off all at once, or are you going to be coming back 4 years in a row doing pieces?
yeah, that's not ideal either, right? And then my only other question was, is the stone dust stabilized? Is that something that you'd consider? Or I know it's pitching away now from the reservoir, but and maybe there's not really a need, but just wondering if that was part of the plan.
It was looked at slightly for stabilized aggregate material, but we decided to just go in kind with the stone dust that was there.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
so at this time it's not being changed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, appreciate it. I always learn something in these presentations, and I always thought that somehow the reservoir was split with Brookline, and it is absolutely not. Um, so, anyways, great to see, and I really appreciate all the landscape details that you guys included as well in the drawing set. Usually we have to ask for those, and they're right up front. I guess one question I did have was there's a lot of the site conditions seem somewhat on the surface at least similar to some of the Jamaica Pond restoration stuff that we had done in the city here prior. I was wondering if there's any lessons learned that you guys had gleaned from that. One thing in particular was sort of the bioretention hadn't been included in that project, if I recall correctly. But due to the sort of level of activity around the landscape, but was just wondering if, site conditions or whether you talked to that project team or had observed sort of what has transpired since.
So I believe that project team would have been a Boston Parks project team. So no, we did not consult. That wasn't a DCR project, Commissioner Wilson. So no, I wasn't aware, or I didn't think of it at the time to consult with that project team.
Yeah, no, totally different scopes of work and stuff like that. I guess that just in terms of sort of how the DG stone dust versus paved areas interact, that was one of the big things that was sort of back and forth and different levels of activity and erosion and that. I think the other thing that sort of had come across in that project, and again, not to directly compare the two, was that they had sort of specified cobble, which might have been more of a historic material choice, maybe. But some of the channel points or toes of slope, you had answered that sort of more. I don't know whether it was from a permanent toe of slope condition versus a temporary during construction, but just that erosional edge in some of these areas, whether there's transitional materials that you were considering on a permanent basis.
There is so right now there is no transition between the gravel, stone dust path and the tour slope where the revetment is for the reservoir. We are in this plan, there is I want to say a 2-foot wide grass strip that is going to be the transition between the stone dust path and the slope at the top, the toe of the slope where the revetment starts. So there is going to be a change in transition there.
Okay.
With
Yeah,
vegetation.
Yeah, that all tracks. And yeah, to sort of Commissioner Lay's point, I believe that the Jamaica Pond project was sort of done in phases as well. So I guess it doesn't need to be an official condition, but just you guys as good project managers monitor sort of how it's being used, how, your intent versus people's activity. maps as you guys then continue around the reservoir. There were changes that then came before us with the Jamaica Pond project, and I think it resulted in sort of as it went, improved the outcome, and I'm excited to see what you guys continue to do here. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Khanna?
Thank you. Is the erosion all from the stormwater runoff, or are there other causes?
No, primarily stormwater runoff. And in this area, Commissioner, it's really because of the elevation change between Beacon Street and the in the path. Most of the runoff was coming from Beacon Street, undersized or blocked infrastructure on Beacon Street, which, as I alluded to earlier, BWSC addressed with an emergency cert and kind of took care of that, most of that situation.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Estes Margiazzi, I got you. Okay, Elena, I see a few hands up. We'll go to Jack first. Jack, you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
There we go.
Jack Sicker. I live practically on the reservoir. I've been here for 14 years. I'm the co-founder of the Chestnut Hill Reservoir Conservancy, and I know this reservoir and the property very well. And what I know to be true is that there is no operation and maintenance that exists in this park. So I fail to believe that there's going to be any form of maintenance associated with proposed stormwater management BMPs. And furthermore, somebody stated that all of the runoff goes into a catch basin and into a storm drain. I just went through the hydrology report and it says it's going to the reservoir, one of them. So I think we need to reconsider what's being proposed here. Also, you've heard it said already, the opposite side of the reservoir is where the big erosion problem is. You've got an oversized project proposed for a couple of problems that truly existed, one of which has been stabilized by Boston Water and Sewer. The one closest to Boston College is the eroding hard surface walkway, and it's falling apart. But it doesn't compare right now to the other side of the reservoir, where there are substantial trail erosion problems draining directly into the reservoir, unchecked. During bad weather, ice, snow, pedestrians walk around the ice, accumulating on the middle of the path onto the berm of the reservoir, making the damage worse. So I get very annoyed, and I'm very happy that this proposal has come forward to make an improvement in the reservoir. It's just that it's too much in the wrong place. And I think you need to examine some of the statements that are being made with regard to where the water flows. I'm very concerned about operation and maintenance of these BMPs. That section of the reservoir, if you left it alone, would be kind of fine because it has a vegetative buffer between the trail and the reservoir. It's acting as some of these proposed best management practices should be acting. The opposite side of the reservoir is not the same case. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, to that point, are we getting an O&M plan for the swales for your BMPs?
Yeah, so all of the BMPs are handled by the stormwater management group. DCR operations does not manage any stormwater infrastructure, including SCMs and BMPs, both subsurface and surface BMPs. So yeah, that's part of the MS4, our MS4 discharge O&M plan. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll get a copy of that. Okay, thank you.
So I hope that answers Jack's question that operations is not going to be managing these BMPs. This is going to be managed by D&E, Design and Engineering Group, the stormwater group that manages all stormwater infrastructure throughout the state.
Okay.
As mandated by the EPA.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ava, would you like to unmute yourself? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I should note, first of all, in the beginning of this presentation, it says that it's the reservoir is in Alston. It's not in Alston, it's in Brighton, but that's a minor point. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I have lived here for 31 years, and all those years I have been going to this reservoir probably every other day. And there are other people like me, and we know that area and how things work or don't work better than anyone who sits at a desk somewhere else. And as far as I know, from what I learned from Jack, there hasn't been any public meeting to solicit public input on this, and we could provide some useful input. My position, and just one more thing, the only reason that this paved path is there is because I lobbied for it like crazy, because I wanted to be able to walk there on snowy days. And without the paved path, they wouldn't be shoveling it. So we got that path, and now indeed in certain places it's deteriorated because of erosion, but I don't think that it's a good use of public money to replace the entire path when other parts of the loop that goes around the reservoir, as Jack mentioned, are just really unusable. I mean, it's just awful. And I remember when they were laying down this asphalt path and keeping the stone dust path in place. For some reason, because they weren't consulting us on everything, they left a green strip of grass between the two. But when the contractor was actually putting down the crushed stone for the stone dust path, he put this crushed stone all the way to the edge of the paved path. And then they planted grass that could never grow there because there was crushed stone below. And I think that we need to resume a proper public process for things like that, because we have worked. I think I spent at least 10 years of my life on this reservoir, advocating for its needs. We were there when the state didn't want to open it to the public. It was all fenced off. We were there when we had to negotiate community benefits from the waterworks development to bring money for improvements. We were there when we were working on the resource management plan, and we're really working so hard on it that my husband was rebelling because it was like a full-time job, right? So now I appreciate that this is well-intentioned. There is indeed an erosion problem that needs to be addressed, but I think that we can just repair parts of the paved path and try to stretch the money wherever it comes from to improve the walking and jogging conditions elsewhere around the basin. And one other thing is that they never told us what kind of stone dust they were going to use, and my feeling is that this stone dust that's there right now is so soft that it gets ground to dust that people inhale, and babies in strollers and joggers in dry weather. You have those clouds of dust getting into people's faces. So if we are to replace the gravel, we should be talking about what type of material should be used to diminish this dust problem. So I propose, I didn't catch the name of the gentleman. Is Tom from DCR?
Yes. So Ava,
can they come back to the community and really talk to us about it? Then we will be able to support them for funding. If they don't come to us and they don't hear us out, then we will be, just a little unhappy and not helpful to them.
Okay. Thank you, Ava. I think Tom has heard you loud and clear. And a lot of what you were talking about, well, we certainly sympathize and understand your position. Where the project before us tonight, we're assessing the impacts to the wetlands resource areas. So a lot of what you're talking about, I think, would be conversations directly with DCR and the state. But thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments.
Sorry
Okay.
if I came across being a little, nervous.
Yeah.
We know you have no ability to fix those issues, but we want to work collaboratively with DCR and just, this conservancy is in place because there are very committed volunteers that want to help this location, so they should be acknowledged. And there's place to meet at the Waterworks Museum. We can invite them over, we can pour over the plants, and we can give them some good tips. It's up to them to accept them or not, but at least let them hear us out.
Okay, I understand, Ava, and I think Tom has heard you, and I'm sorry, we're going to have to move on to other business here. But thank you for your comments. Okay. Elena, anything else? Did you get any emails?
We had one email ahead of the hearing, and that is in the drive folder for the commission's review. It's a comment from Jeff Goldman, and it just notes that many people enjoy walking or running along the path, and they're just asking that it's not completely paved, and also please remove excess stones and keep it as a level cinder/dirt path around the reservoir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue the order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Estes-Margiazzi?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number unassigned. Did we get assigned yet, Eleanor?
Yes, we did. The new DEP file number for this, or not new, but the assigned DEP file number is 006-2115.
I'm sorry. So now I'll call it out. Notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2115 from LEC Environmental Consultants on behalf of the Massachusetts Port Authority for the proposed geotechnical explorations on land and in water at 75 and 105 Constitution Road in Charlestown. Resource areas, land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, 100-foot buffer to coastal bank, land under ocean, land containing shellfish. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Yes, thank you, Chair Parker, and members of the commission. I'm Chris Bush, Senior Waterfront Planner with Massport. Here this evening with our consultants, Mark Manganiello of LEC Environmental and Dan Kennedy of GEI Consultants. Notice of intent under review this evening, as noted, is for landside, waterside borings and geotechnical work. Largely done to help us develop a design for a larger bulkhead repair and replacement project for the wharf, which will be the subject of a separate filing at a future date. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mark to review the scope of the work.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Mark Manganiello with LEC Environmental Consultants. We could pop up that first slide. Second slide. So here's the Constitution Wharf site. I assume you're all somewhat familiar with this. This is at 75 and 105 Constitution Road. It's approximately 8.5 acres of land. It has 3 commercial buildings, paved parking. The Boston Harbor Walk extends around the perimeter of the property to the top of a steel sheet pile bulkhead, which is the bulkhead that will be repaired in the future, as Chris described. Next slide, please. This is the geotechnical explorations plan we submitted with the notice of intent. This shows the locations of the borings. The legend down on the bottom right shows the different types of borings. There are water borings shown in blue. There are 5 of those. Land borings in yellow. There are 7 of those. A test pit, which there's just a single test pit that's in green. And then there are geoprobes, 2 geoprobe locations in orange. The well and resource areas associated with the property, there's a coastal bank that is coincident with the top of the bulkhead. That's in a dashed yellow line. The 100-foot buffer zone to that coastal bank is also dashed yellow. The 100-year coastal floodplain, land subject to coastal storm flowage, is a lighter yellow squiggly line that kind of follows the bulkhead, but extends up onto the property essentially around following the harbor walk around the perimeter. And then, of course, there's land under the ocean, land containing shellfish within Boston Harbor, adjacent to the bulkhead. Next slide, please. These are some photos of the existing conditions in the project area. So this is the west side of the wharf where you can see the harbor walk and some landscape planting beds, and the marina on the ocean side. Next slide, please. And then turning the corner, the south-facing side of the wharf, the marina wraps around here as well. Similar conditions, the harbor walk extending along the top of the bulkhead and some landscape plantings on the landward side of that. And next slide. And then turning the corner facing east, you can actually see the Constitution there in the background in the photo on the left. The harbor walk continues down and turns to the right briefly to Paul Revere Park, where one of the land borings is proposed. Next slide. So as Chris mentioned, this is to support design of a future bulkhead rehabilitation project, which will come before you through a separate notice of intent. The land borings, the water borings, and the two geoprobes are all 6-inch diameter probes and borings. The land borings will be to 80 feet or bedrock, water borings 30 feet or refusal, and the two probes 12 feet or refusal. The one test pit is approximately 14 feet by 8 feet in area, and they're aiming to go to a depth of 17 feet there. The land borings, the probes, and the test pit are all inland subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, and or the buffer zone to coastal bank impacts are 116.5 square feet approximately. And then the water borings are in land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, totaling 2.5 square feet. All these disturbances are temporary and will be restored after the activity occurs. Next slide, please. And some additional details and considerations we wanted to note for the commission. So the water borings and the land borings will be completed with a track-mounted drill rig. There's a photo of a rig that's used for this type of work on the right here. The water borings will be on a floating barge. We're anticipating the project to take 2 months to complete, and it will be done outside the busy summer months. Access to the harbor walk will be maintained as much as possible during the land boring work and the test pit work. Temporary detours may be necessary. And then the contractor will be required to prepare a dewatering plan and hazardous materials plan, which also would be implemented if necessary. Next slide. Well, that's the last slide. So that's an overview of the project. Dan Kennedy from GEI Consultants, the project engineer, is also here. If you have any technical questions about the geotechnical work, he can probably answer those better than me.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Okay, a couple quick questions here. On the barge, I assume you have a spill management plan and spill containment measures that can be submitted to the commission?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, land borings. Do you really expect to go down to 80 feet there?
Yeah, so for as long as if we hit bedrock sooner, we'll stop there. We're planning to drill 10 feet into the bedrock, but if we don't, we're going to go down 80.
Okay, interesting. Okay, as far as the dewatering, Mark talked about the potential that there might be, it seemed like he was talking about the potential there might be contaminated sediment or soils. How would you know that you've hit it and that you should manage those soils?
So we don't anticipate that we're going to hit contaminated soils. We are the areas the only area where we're excavating soil is at the test pit area. And that area, we would excavate the material, stockpile it with erosion control measures. And that material is planned to go back in the same test pit. This area, this material, this was all constructed late 1940s and was expected to be filled at that time. And then subsequently, they've done new pavement and things like that. But we're not anticipating contaminated materials on the site.
Okay, I understand. So it would be there'd be visual indicators or smell indicators of the soil that's going to be laid down on some sort of geotextile feature before it's
Correct.
reinserted. Okay, understood.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
And we at Massport, we do have established protocols, and we literally have people on call 24/7 if there's any type of spill or material that needs handling. So yeah, we do take that seriously, and all of our contractors have those numbers on hand. We've got that sort of emergency contact list that's typically part of the pre-construction material that we need to submit, and that's part of that. And again, yeah, that spill management plan would be on site as well with a contract.
What? Hey,
Okay. Get that dog calmed down back there, Commissioner Sullivan. Thank you, Chris. It occurs to me as you said that you must have someone on. You must have someone on 24 hours. That's very reassuring. I hadn't thought about that before. Thank you. Eleanor, what do you have on this?
Thank you. Yes, we did not have anything to add. We did do a site visit. We saw the areas where the borings are happening, and other than that, we don't really have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
yeah, my only question was on that test pit. That's rather deep, and I would assume you're going to encounter some groundwater as you're going down there. How are you going to deal with that, and what are you looking for with such a large test pit?
So behind this bulkhead is a relieving platform. That's how it was constructed. So there's pile supports that are down, below grade. The top of the deck is around 12, 13 feet below grade, concrete deck with pile supports. So what we're doing is we're making an excavation at the end of that platform so we can view those piles. So we'll have that'll be supported. That'll be supported with the trench excavation will be supported, and we'll allow the water to come in and out with the tide there. It's not going to come out of, the top of the excavation. It'll just move up and down in the tide, and they'll work around it in their excavating.
So this test pit isn't a one-day affair. You're going to excavate, take the soil off site, and leave it open. How long? How long is it?
We're expecting a week for the work.
Okay.
We won't be taking the soil off site. We'll be stockpiling it nearby and using erosion control measures to keep it in place.
Control it.
Yeah.
And I would assume that with the mean tide might be around 5 there. What are you going to do with the water? I mean, how are you going to observe what goes on down at the ground elevation there is what, about 18 for the
Yeah, it's
area?
about 16 there.
16.
So
You're going down 17 feet, so you're down below low tide.
Right, just below the low tide. So we'll only be able to see it to the low tide mark, but that'll get us to the deck elevation that we need.
Yeah. All right. Just curious. And then you're just trying to determine what the piles are like under that, see what they're like?
Yeah, we want to see the condition of the deck and the piles because we're going to partially rely on that in the design of the redevelopment.
Yeah. All right. That's all. That's all I have for questions.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys sharpening up my property line theme of the meeting, Massport versus BPDA. over there. Yeah, between Washington Street Bridge and then the Constitution is Massport. So back to Chair Parker's question about the 80-foot boring depths. I was just wondering what the purpose of the bulkhead reinforcement was. Is that for existing load or additional load, or still yet TBD given the investigation?
Yeah, the reason we're going down to -80 is the original depth of the sheets was down to -47. And plus you have, 15 or 16 feet above that. That gets you into, 60 plus feet to get to the bottom tip of elevation. And then we want to see the material that's below that too. So when we run our analysis, we get a full soil profile. And the new design will basically be most likely oversheeting of the existing bulkhead to replace that same strength. So that's the intent.
Okay, that all sounds good. And then I noticed and I appreciated in some way your generous description of that it had been accented with shade trees. That is one of the places where there are trees as you go out in the wharves, and I appreciate that. I don't know whether like part of your borings is like kind of reading whether organic soils, given whatever sort of urban fill had taken place, given those sort of nominal upland conditions, like how does that get considered in terms of part of this?
Yeah, so we do take samples as we go down with the borings. So it's like a split spoon sampler. So we will get, a profile of the soil. We don't have, chemical testing planned for that soil. Be just looking at like gradation there and the physical properties from an engineering standpoint.
Okay. I mean, I guess that would be sort of like my question is like, since it has been filled in, is it becoming more accommodating to vegetation and that sort of thing? Or, sort of like the vegetation is, in spite of all the odds, succeeding and could be reinforced, and just sort of like, what the larger plans might be in terms of trying to either support that or, encourage change or something like that over time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be able to get the thicknesses of those soil layers. So we'll be able to say, the top, 10 feet of the soil is that same material that the vegetation's growing in, and where that is over, along the perimeter of the site. So we would be able to get that information as part of our investigation.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Conan?
What causes a refusal if it's not bedrock?
The only other thing that could cause it is like as a boulder. So if you hit something, a boulder that was underneath there, then not necessarily the bedrock layer, but something that the probe cannot penetrate.
Yeah, I was just curious because I wasn't sure if you're talking about clay or something artificial, but boulder makes sense. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Smargiassi?
Nope, Commissioner Sullivan asked my questions about the big test pit. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor, any hands raised?
No hands, and I'm not seeing anything in the chat or our inbox either.
No emails. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue order conditions and close the hearing. It's getting late, guys.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
very
next item
much.
on the agenda. Request for a determination of applicability from Adams and Moranci on behalf of Murad Enterprises, Inc. for the removal and replacement of a deteriorated commercial sign at 815 Gallivan Boulevard in Dorchester. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Great. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Attorney Ryan Spitz on behalf of Morad Enterprises. I'm here to present a straightforward on-site premise sign replacement project at 815 Galvin Boulevard in Dorchester. Joining me today is also Derek Morad from Morad Enterprises, Xander Oram from Merrill Engineers, and Greg Ziamek from Ultra Slum Services, who is the general contractor for the sign replacement. The existing sign needs to come down. It's deteriorated. It's a safety concern, and we want to replace it properly. If I could direct your attention to slides 2 and 3, please, which contain the site photos. The site is currently occupied by a car wash. The sign being replaced is at the front end of the property off of New Ponset Ave. The sign has visible rust and structural weakness. This isn't a cosmetic issue. It's a safety hazard. Replacing it is the responsible course of action. If we can go to the next slide, please. Project overview. The scope is very simple. We're removing the old sign using a small mobile crane, then installing a new comparable sign in the same location, same dimensions with a single column rather than the 2 columns of the existing sign. The key detailed here is the installation method. We'll vibrate the new column to engineered depth. There's no concrete pour, no soil displacement, no grading. We're putting back what was there, but safer and built to current structural standards. Next slide, please. On the logistics sides, permitting and delivery will take approximately 1 to 3 months, but actual on-site construction is just 3 to 5 days. Equipment is modest, a mobile crane, standard trucks, hand tools. Critically, there are no changes to the drainage, no new impervious surface, and all work is confined to the already developed area. This is a low-contained, low-impact project. Next slide, please. Now, the site is within the FEMA's special flood hazard in the city of Boston's land subject to coastal storm flowage, the New Ponset River vicinity, approximately 500 feet away. So we took environmental compliance seriously. The project satisfies all 10 LSCSF performance standards. No fill, no grading, no hardscape changes. Drainage characteristics are completely unaltered. The vibration method means 0 net soil displacement. So there's no lateral flood water displacement and no reduction in flood storage capacity. The slender pole won't redirect or impound flood waters. And the new sign is actually engineered to improve the storm resilience standards, which is a climate resilience grade upgrade over what's there now. Next slide, please. To sum it up, this is an in-kind replacement that improves safety, satisfies all wetlands and flood performance standards, and leaves the site in the same or better condition than we found it. So at this point, Mr. Chair, I'm going to turn it over to you for any questions or comments from the commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. That was very succinct and straight to the point. I think that the only issue that this came before us is because you'll be going 40 feet into the ground for support. I assume that's a function of the height of the sign.
I do have Xander Oram, who's here from the engineers, as well as Greg Ziamek, and I think they can comment a little bit better than I could, and that is pertaining to the depth.
Okay, thank you.
Xander or Greg?
Yeah, I'd offer Greg to comment on that. I'm not really a structural engineer. I'm more of a site design engineer.
This is Greg Ziamek with Ultralume Services. The depth is needed because there's no concrete, there's no anything else except skin friction to go negative 36 feet below grade to get enough skin friction to uphold the wind loads and current engineering design that's needed so the sign doesn't spin, twist, sink, fall over.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to Ellen, I just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. So, Elena, I think it was you who mentioned to me the 40-foot depth. So what was your concern here?
Correct, yeah. So for the commission's context, in addition to the reviews that we do at our hearings, there are projects that get flagged for us based on where they are in the city, if they're within resource areas. Inspectional Services will flag conservation review in their portal. This is how we learned of this project, and I think just given the depth, it was a little bit out of the ordinary for what we usually see for sign replacements within LSCSF, which is why we recommended that they file an RDA. It didn't seem to rise to the level of an NOI, but we just wanted to make sure that the commission had eyes on it since it was somewhat more involved than our average sign replacement. That being said, we do see a lot of replacement of various signs and other sort of above surface situations within LSCSF that we're sometimes able to sign off on administratively.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my only question was, is the sign itself going to change the size of it, and is it going to be electronic, or is it just a good old billboard?
No, it's not a billboard. So it's an on-site premise sign. So all the dimensions of the sign itself are going to stay exactly the same. The only big thing that's actually changing, so the current existing sign has 2 columns. This is going to be condensed down into 1 column.
Yeah. All right. No, I was just curious. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
That's all I had. Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
So is there any concern about the depth available to you since you haven't done a boring here, is that right?
Greg, I'm going to have to defer back to you on that.
Yes, Greg Ziomek again. No, we have a test bore that was done within 20 feet some years ago, and of course the ground conditions don't change. And it's not uncommon. We build 98% of the billboards in New England, the larger new signs, and we've gone anywhere up to 140 feet of depth. It's very common because there's nothing to this foundation. It's just a hollow column vibrated down into the ground. So it's very common. That's a normal length, and it's the most environmentally friendly because there's no excavation, there's no soil taken off site, there's no disturbance. It's just a hole, vibrate it down, and finished.
I see. And is there an existing footing for the sign that's out there now that's just remaining in place?
Yes, we identified it's about mid 2-foot diameter for each of the 2 columns, and we are just going to avoid that. And we've identified it and sprayed an orange mark on the ground. We're going to vibrate straight down from there and clear ground. Nothing, no obstructions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no, totally appreciate the project. There's part of me that hurts with the single monopile design solution that is well beyond our context, but Venturi Scott Brown, learning from Las Vegas, that double sign standard from the 70s is like something that's near and dear to the design community's heart. If there's a way to put one foundation and split it at the top and make it, tulip shaped, I'm all for it, but don't break it. Don't want it flying through the air in a hurricane. But there was a reason why it looked like that way back when. So anyways, I appreciate you making it safe for the future.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Commissioner Conan?
Is 40 feet sufficient?
It's actually negative 36 feet below grade. And
Negative
yes,
36.
it's been engineered and designed with standard soil coefficients and well beyond any, yes, it's sufficient, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Smargiassi?
I get nothing on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Elena, any hands?
Apologies. No hands, nothing in the chat, nothing in our inbox either.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with standard erosion controls conditions.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Take that as a second. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, request for an amendment to the original order of conditions for DEP file number 006-2061 and Boston file number 2025-026 from the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation for the proposed installation of additional plantings at Constitution Beach Park, 799 Bennington Street in East Boston. Resource areas land subject to coastal storm flowage. Do we have a proponent on this, or is this something you're taking, Elena?
Chair Parker, I'm Jenna Johnson, Project Manager for DCR's Project Shade, and I'm here this evening. I believe Bill Masterson of Tree Eastie is also in attendance.
Okay, great. Floor is all yours.
Thank you. Next slide. Commissioners, thank you all for putting us on your agenda this evening. We're here to request an amendment to DCR's Constitution Beach Order of Conditions for additional planting in an area of the park in the land subject to coastal storm flowage resource area. Next slide, please. We are all here on behalf of the Healy administration and appreciate the support of the governor, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, Secretary Tepper, and Commissioner LaChapelle. Next slide, please. Our mission and core principles guide our decision-making daily. I know you've all seen them before. Next slide, please. So this project is a collaboration with Tree Eastie. Since the fall of 2024, Tree Eastie, with help from the city of Boston and DCR's Project Shade, have planted over 58 native canopy trees on the beach side of the park. Next slide, please. And now DCR proposes planting on the north side of the parking lot. This aerial diagrams the lawn area between the parking lot and the MBTA rail line, which oddly varies in planting character. In the northeast or upper right side of the slide, areas 7 and 8 are in your jurisdiction. Again, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Next slide, please. These photos illustrate the existing conditions. Area 7 on the left is mowed turf with 18 sheared Russian olive shrubs. We propose installing erosion control and removing and disposing of the Russian olive off-site and installing native trees and shrubs inspired by a maritime woodland natural community. Area 8 on the right is mowed turf with mature pines. The pines will not be disturbed. We propose just adding 3 native deciduous trees and gaps between the pines. Next slide, please. The National Flood Hazard Layer shows areas 7 and 8 in the land subject to coastal storm flowage resource area. Next slide, please. And this detail shows areas 7 and 8 more clearly. You can see the little dots that are the Russian olive. Next slide, please. The drainage map illustrates there's no underground drainage infrastructure in areas 7 and 8. An electrical line does run along the back of curb, which will be maintained as a 6-foot wide mow strip to protect those vaults in line. Next slide, please. And finally, the planting plan illustrates a naturalistic planting pattern for native trees and shrubs, as well as the placement of erosion control. Again, the back of curb will be maintained as a 6-foot mow strip and the fence line with a 4-foot mow strip to prevent invasive volunteers growing into the fence. Next slide, please. Thank you, and we are happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So, quick question. I mean, the way that you were presenting this, it almost felt like it was an RDA or an NOI as opposed to an amendment. So, are the trees being planted within the footprint of the original order of conditions or the original project? Or are they outside?
Chair Parker, this is an additional limit of work.
Oh, okay.
So not in the original order of conditions, which if the executive director or Ms. Hernandez would go back to the planting plan, you
Oh,
can
no, that's okay. No, I understand.
you
I
can see
understand
the
the issue.
relationship
So,
of the original limit of work.
yeah. Okay. So, Elena, haven't we run into problems with DEP before regarding amendments that call for new alterations outside of what we've already approved?
We have, and so this is something that we met with the project team about before making a recommendation on how they would proceed with their filing. Given the fact that this is strictly within LSCSF and not within a resource area that has performance standards under state regulations, only local regulations, the nature of the work, so the addition of trees and taking out of some existing shrubs, but again, replacing them with trees, and the specific location being so far from the water, we think that all of those elements aligned, or in addition to the fact that this is aligned with what was originally permitted, made it appropriate for an amendment. I took into account if there were any different conditions that the commission might want to apply for this type of work, and it seemed like their existing order would cover any of the conditions that we would usually want to see for this type of project. So yeah, while we have received pushback from DEP in the past, it has been for larger projects that are going beyond their scope in more significant ways and causing more disturbance. And the majority of the impacts from this additional work would be temporary.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. So before we move on, just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send questions to staff via email at cc@ccboston.gov. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, did you check where any of the new plantings are going to be in relationship to existing water lines out there?
We did look, and we don't see any conflicts with utilities other than, as I mentioned, the electric line at back of curb.
Yeah, so you stating then that you are 15 feet away from any existing water lines?
From there are water lines marked on the survey on the beach side of the parking lot, but there are no water lines on the north side of the parking lot.
Right. So you're not near any water lines, is what you're
Not
saying.
near any water lines.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's what I like, the positive. We're not going to get near them. No, it's just you plant a tree near a water line and then it leaks and then you're told you can't touch the tree because it's sacred. So I just asked those questions. But now I got you on record, so I'm in good shape. Goodbye. That's all I had.
Okay, Commissioner Linay.
I had a question. So just today walking the Greenway in East Boston site with our arborist, we did see some pine bark adelgid on some of the pines, and I just wondered if, Bill, if you encountered that in the area, and I understand you have a pitch pine proposed here, so just one question on that, and then looking at the spacing being fairly tight, just wanted to get a sense of the goal there. If you want to plant these fairly, tight together, versus giving them a little more space to maybe develop a broader canopy.
Right. No. So we have not noticed any of the issues that you mentioned on the pines at Constitution Beach. We have closer to the Greenway down near Memorial Park in East Boston. Did you notice any out at Constitution Beach, or was it further down the Greenway?
Just down closer to the Blue Caboose, so still
Yeah,
fairly
we've
far,
noticed
so.
it there as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But up at that end of the Greenway, we haven't noticed any at all.
Okay, that's great.
And Commissioner Lenny, we did want to start next generation planting with those red pines because they are quite mature and they are quite exposed.
Mm-hmm. You're sprinkling in new trees in that area.
Yes, where there's available space. We don't want to get obviously too close to the root zone of the pines. And then to answer your second question, we do have what we hope will become a fairly dense maritime woodland planting. So very naturalistic, almost like a hedgerow in effect. So there are species that kind of exist happily in layers and with relatively tight spacing. There are segments, for instance, the linden trees adjacent to Area 7 that of course will stay. They're beautiful, mature canopy trees, but we're not going for a traditional park specimen tree planting in this location.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, no further questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Conan?
Couple of quick questions. Appreciate the preparation for future shade in that space, which definitely people can use. The answer may be topology, but just want to confirm 7 and 8 are in land subject to coastal storm flowage, but not 1 through 6.
That, yes, that was the determination of Elena Edamari, and I look to her for any confirmation on that.
Apologies, I missed what I might be able to confirm.
You were accused of delineating the resource area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, only in section 7. I think it was 7 and 8, or 11 and 12.
I see.
But not
Yes.
the others.
Yeah. So
Yep.
we relied both on the original filing and then on the most current FEMA maps for that.
I see. So basically, you're convinced, Elena, then 1 through 6 are not at risk here.
Correct. Yeah, that was our assessment.
Okay. Thank you. Second question. I think you've already taken this into consideration, but what's the salt tolerance level of the trees you're considering?
We used the natural heritage and endangered species plant community, natural community called Maritime Woodland as our basis for the plant palette. And so those are secondary dune species. So we don't have a real dune or a secondary dune at Constitution Beach, but we were inspired by that Maritime Woodland plant palette. So these are all plant species tolerant of salt spray and occasional inundation.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner S.S. Smargiassi?
Nothing further. Looking
Okay.
forward to seeing more trees there.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Elena, any hands raised?
No hands raised, nothing in the box, nothing in the chat either.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the original order of conditions for DEP file number 006-2061 and Boston file number 2025-026 and close the hearing.
So moved.
We have a second. Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Linay.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Conan.
Aye.
Commissioner S.S. Smargiassi.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Okay, thank you. Good luck on that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your
you're welcome.
support.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have had a continuance, continued as notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2042 and Boston file number 2025-014. We will now begin our regular meeting. First item on the agenda are request for certificate of compliances. Elena, are these all ready to go?
Let's see.
From your
Yes.
perspective?
So all of these are ready to go. They do all have perpetual maintenance conditions attached to them, which are
Okay,
noted.
so I'm gonna thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Okay, so I'm gonna propose something. Unless if any commissioners have any questions on this, I am proposing that we approve or issue these certificates of compliance en masse after I call them out with staff, instituting the perpetual maintenance conditions as they see fit. Does anybody have any objection to that, or would you like to stay here until 9:30? It's the way I phrase the
No
question.
objection.
Okay. So with that, I would request a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1909, certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1913 and Boston file number 2022-058, DEP file number 006-2084, DEP file number 006-2001 and Boston file number 2024-024, and DEP file number 006-2066 and Boston file number 2025-031 with all perpetual maintenance conditions that staff recommends.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner S.S. Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Elena, thank you for getting all these COCs cleaned up.
Of
You've
course.
done a lot of work here.
Yes, I
Okay.
also do want to shout out Dee Dee for figuring out all of the scheduling with the snow. We had to stagger them a little bit more than usual.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dee Dee. Okay, next item on the agenda, administrative updates. What do you have?
Yes, so following suit, trying to keep this short, the administrative updates are really all just kind of FYIs for the commission. One of them is related to an order of conditions that was issued to Mass Audubon. It was the Boston Nature Center end of year report for 2025. That is there for your review. If any commissioners have questions, please email them to me and I can share them with the project team. The next admin update is just a notice that there is the spring cleanups that NEPRA organizes annually are being scheduled. I think a lot of the volunteer slots are filled up, but there's a link in the email that we PDF'd to their sign up. And those will be happening on Saturday, April 25th. A lot of great sites, a lot of familiar sites. And then the last admin update is related to the continued remediation work that the EPA is doing in the Neponset. They are holding a public meeting on what they have found so far. That'll be on April 21st at 6 p.m. And there's also a fact sheet in the drive on basically just summarizing what they've found so far. And just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone?
So we already know what they found. They're just going to be answering questions at the meeting.
I think so. I also think that my experience with the updates that they send out is that because of how technical they are, those meetings are an opportunity for them to explain them in more approachable terms. I think that the materials they put out are helpful, but they can be quite dense. So I think this is an opportunity for people to understand more about the findings themselves and then potentially ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, just to add to that, I'm sure that EPA has a website if you wanted to look it up, and I would be very surprised if there was not a site update in summary that's in layperson's terms and with links to administrative record if you're interested. But the upshot is, as with all Superfund sites or remedial sites, once they get in there and they start digging around, things get worse. Especially when you're talking about sediments. Very hard to characterize them, delineate the scope of them. So that's what they're working through now. Mike, you had a question?
No, just comment. I appreciate the Audubon Society contributing their status update. I thought it was really cool. So like on average, they had 60 people working for 4 hours to remove 1/10 of a football field of Phragmites.
Wow.
Like that's the amount of labor that's involved in that is insane. And I think that's one of those things where I didn't fully appreciate that, but I appreciate their dedication. So.
Agreed.
That is, I didn't realize that. Thank you for pointing that out. And Conan, you were asking about the Superfund site, right? In the
Yes, I
Ponset?
was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting giddy. Okay, I looked at the meeting minutes. What was it, March 25th? They were excellent. I only needed to correct a spacing issue. So with that, I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from March 25th, 2026.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Conan?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 6-0. Who is doing the minutes? Is it Mason or?
Yeah, Mason is drafting our meeting minutes for us.
Fantastic. Mason, fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. So with that, I think we're at a motion to adjourn. Does anybody have any, here we go. Any objections? Can we all go home now?
We are home.
We are home.
Yeah, we are home. I'm going to go walk. I'm going to head out and walk along the harbor walk that we saw in Charlestown just a few minutes ago. So
enjoy your walk.
Thank you.
Go
Good night,
drive some
everyone.
test piles.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
See you in a few weeks.
Watch out for the very large test pit.
You know what it is? I'll tell you the truth. I got attacked by a goose the other day. Canadian goose. I must have walked between her and goslings. It was actually a little intense. I've never
Yeah.
had that happen before. So
There's signs out all along the Charles right now, which I appreciate because, you know,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
fierce.
Yeah, if it hasn't happened to you, I was a little surprised. I was like,
Yeah.
these docile birds minding their own business, but they're fierce. So anyway, good night, everyone. See you in a few
Take
weeks.
care.
Okay, take
Take
care.
care.
Bye-bye.
You all.
Thank you.